Hey there, friends. How's it going? My name's Popeye, and today we got some more Umineko Chapter 1 Questions Arc in what may be the final stream of this. I know we're very close to the end, so we'll see what happens. Hello, Samus. I can in fact scold you for a 59-month streak. You cut that out. Before we get into this game has some pretty mature themes that I just want to give everyone trigger warnings for. This game includes themes such as, but not limited to, death, murder, child abuse, dismemberment, blood, gore, any of those things against a minor. If that's not your cup of tea, please by all means find some other place to rather spend your evening tonight. Alright, last time, let's pull up the chart of people. We had some more deaths. One, our aunt and uncle Eva and Hideyoshi were found dead in their room when Genji and Kanon went to go see if they wanted to join us for dinner. They found that there was an envelope shoved under the door. Thank you for that hydrate. We've just got water today. So they broke open the door, which was chained shut from the inside, making it a locked room. No one could make it into any windows from that side. They were also locked from the inside. And Aunt Eva was found on the bed with what looks like a dagger, but the blade looks like a drill, like a little spiral drill. And Uncle Hideyoshi, same thing, but found in the bathtub in their bathroom. And then we seal that place up, and we notice a rancid smell. So we try to find this rancid smell. And Kanon and Kumasawa-san see someone dash into the furnace room. So they dash inside. And Kanon tries to fight them with, I think he had like a hatchet or something that he had picked up along the way. Swipes at them, misses, and gets impaled in the chest with a similar looking spiral thing, which they're describing here as an ice pick. While they were in there, they realized that the rancid smell was in fact coming from the furnace room, which is where we found our grandfather's charred corpse in the furnace. The only reason that they know it was him is because he apparently has 12 toes, 6 on each feet, and his toes were left intact. So we were able to identify him from that. He also had the ice pick thing rammed into his forehead. Battler and I believe it's, Natsuki-san run outside into the courtyard because there's a second exit from the furnace room, but to no avail, the perpetrator's already left. We then decide the best thing we can do right now is hide ourselves away in a secure room. The most secure room being grandfather's room, which we've confirmed only has 2 sets of keys. One which was on grandfather, which we took, and one which Genji had that he had originally lent to Natsuki. So we have both sets of keys. So we go and lock ourselves in his room and try to wait out the night until the boat arrives in the morning is the plan. So that's where we're at right now, kind of finally decompressing the 4 new people who have died over the past hour or so. Alright, and here's where we trailed off last time, and I know Samus is very excited to hear what happens if you ask her as a woman.
それではお母様の立つ瀬があります。
同感だぜ。浮気は浮気。綺麗事にされちゃかなわねえよな。
それもそうだな。ばあ様が気の毒になっちまうぜ。
それでベアトリーチェとおじい様の間に子供がいたなんて話はある？
I thought that might happen. Here is the sentence for
女の
you.
私から言えば、お父様の純愛の気持ちも少しは理解したいところですが、それではお
It
母様
does
の
leave
立場
Mother
があ
in
り
an
ます。
awkward position. Because we're talking about how our grandfather did have this lady named Beatrice and basically spent his entire life trying to figure out how to bring her back, even though he was married. The keyword Beatrice has been hidden in every corner of this case. It's natural to suspect any relative of Beatrice.
いえ、そのような話は聞いたことがありません。
仮にいたとしたら、最愛の人の忘れがたみとして、きっと全ての愛情を注ぎ込んだだろうね。それがなく、黒魔術に没頭していったなら、子供はいなかったと考えるべきなのかな。
そういえばこんな噂を聞いたことがあるぜ。知ってるだろ。じい様が福音の家っていう福祉施設に莫大な援助をしてるって話。
よしなさい。それはお父様を冒涜する中傷に過ぎません。
教えてくれよ、夏日おばさん。隠し事はなしなのはおばさんもだと思うっすよ。
くだらない話です。お父様はその施設に莫大な援助をし、社会勉強の一環として当家の使用人雇用枠を開放していました。それをお父様に汚らわしい趣味があると吹聴する愚か者がいたというだけの話です。
一時期それが黒魔術の生贄にするためだみたいな噂になってさ。
I mean, that's basically what he's done this weekend.
実際いつもこの部屋で怪しげな実験や儀式を繰り返してたわけで、私も半分は信じてたところがあったぜ。
その福音の家出身の使用人ってのは
Well, in the scope of this, it's now...
何人かいますが、親族会議中のシフトで
So it's Sunday at
シャノン
8
と
p.m.
2人でした。
Pretty sure we arrived on, because we've only slept one night. Yeah, we arrived Saturday. It's literally been like maybe 36 hours in game time. To resurrect Beatrice, he had summoned servants from a welfare institute as sacrifices.
確かにじい様が使用人として選ぶのはいつもシャノンやカノン君くらいの若い子ばかり。私だってじい様には妙な趣味があるに違いないって信じてたぜ。
ジェシカ、言葉を慎みなさい。
Aunt Natsuki scolded her, the atmosphere instantly went sour and everyone fell quiet. However, something was tugging at the back of my mind. Sacrifices. Sacrifices. Sacrifices brought over from the Gospel House. What is it? Freaky words like sacrifices don't pop up often. Yet, I've seen or heard that word somewhere recently. Almost like there was a whole epitaph on a thing that we were supposed to try to solve, that the letter said if we solved it, all of this would go away. I wonder what that was. Doing alright. Yeah, doing alright. Was able to... Oh, I've got like 4 different projects going on, and we just hired a bunch of new co-ops, and I've been working with 2 of them. And so far they've been doing pretty decent work. They've only been here just this week. So there's, you know, obviously a lot of ramp up and stuff like that. Unfortunately, our co-ops, we only support Canadian citizens right now because of the grant we're using for it. So unfortunately, unfortunately, we cannot take on an American citizen at this point. I'm a Canadian citizen. We have... So my company has done work with people who aren't, like, you know, citizens or permanent residents or anything like that. We've got one coworker from Italy who's moved here and gotten his citizenship. So we have worked with people like that before. Yeah, I get that. And like right now, the tech space is just oversaturated. So I think I said this before, but we had posted up a job listing in the fall of last year. Within like 3 days, we got 800 applicants, and we're not a big company. Good information. Yes, that would probably be a problem. But yeah, at least in Canada right now, we're getting a lot of applicants, and a lot of applicants from outside of the country, basically doing exactly what you're suggesting. Although most of ours are coming from India. Canada is a large Indian diasporic population. Yeah, I try not to think about stuff like that. It's also not like I could affect it much, to be honest, which is sad. Oh yes. Everyone who voted in the Canadian election, good work doing your civic duties. Regardless of who you voted for, I'm happy for everyone who went out and took their time to vote. Come on, Beatrice. What do you know? I'd arrived in front of the portrait of Beatrice. It wasn't as vast as the one in the entrance hall, but that portrait, which must have been drawn by some famous painter, was still just as intimidating in the smaller size. Below it, just like in the entrance hall, was the epitaph, said to point out the place where the gold was hidden. Oh, you can actually see in the background, there's the epitaph we're currently reading.
急に気持ち悪いこと言うなよ。
生贄を6人。
So he's reading back the epitaph, which I'm surprised took someone this long. So the first words were sacrifice the six. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was the first night. Both my eyes opened as wide as plates. Right there, everything had been predicted since the very beginning. Everyone crowded around, and the same expression of terror filled every face. Yes, it was written in the epitaph. On the first twilight, sacrifice the six, chosen by the key. Remember, there's also a key, was the point in question about how did they get into the Rose storehouse.
間違いない。最初に死んだのは6人だ。そしてシャッターに書かれた魔法陣じゃねえ、ヘブライ語でも生贄を捧げると書いてあった。
マリアは最初からそう言ってる。
That's right, Maria had said it at the very beginning. Right after we found the 6 bodies, Maria was in the parlor watching TV. She had said it. Ooh, killer's not human. Just the sacrifices chosen by the key.
これは黄金の隠し場所なんかじゃねえ。黒魔術か何かの復活の儀式の手順なんだ。確かこの碑文には大勢の死が必要になるはず。
確かにざっと読むだけでも 6+2+5 で13人は死ななくちゃならないことになってる。
Let's do some quick math. So we had the original 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then she said +2. We had Eva and Hideyoshi, although grandfather was probably dead before that. So I'm not sure where he falls in. Because they said he was already dead at least like 24 hours. So he was also probably dead around the same time. We just didn't find him. And then she said +4, so we just had 1, 2, which means 2 more have to die for a total of 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, 3 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Okay, 3 more people have to die.
普段はこの島には何人いるんですか？
使用人のシフトにもよるでしょうが、お父様、夫に、私にジェシカ、そして使用人が 2、3人。昨日今日は5人いてもらってますが、普段はそこまでいません。
ってことはだ、この儀式を実行しようとしたら普段じゃ生贄が足らないってわけだ。いや違うぜ、じいさまは福音の家から不気味な儀式の生贄にするために使用人を取ったという噂。
つまりなんだよ、生贄の人数を増やすために使用人を増やし、さらに人数が集まる年に一度の親族会議を。
So he probably also didn't want to be one of the 13 who died.
この儀式を執り行える年にたった一度、唯一のタイミングだったってことじゃねえか。
Jessica screamed this. Maria broke out in that creepy laugh, looking truly pleased.
人は運気を試すためにある種の確率に願
Oh
掛
yes,
け
there
を
was
する
something
ことが
interesting
な
I
い。
noticed. If you look at the character profiles, you can see here we have Maria's laugh on at least that one. Like throwing a sandal and saying that if it lands right side up, tomorrow will be sunny. Saying that tomorrow will be a good day if the coin lands on the head. There are many little superstitions like that. Fed up at how nothing is going right for you. You happen to roll some dice and get 3 6s, so it would probably make you want to believe that it's a sign of some miracle. This is a reference back to Higurashi about rolling 6s, except they used 5 instead of 3. I believe. I think it was 5. When flipping a sandal, you'd have at worst a 50% chance. Even if you get it right side up, it's not worth much. But if you carelessly roll 3 dice and they'll come up 6, you might think that's a small miracle.
魔術にもそういう考えはあるんだよ。限りなくありえない出目を期待してひたすらに祈祷を続ける。そうして蓄えられた祈祷の念は奇跡の出目が現れた時、魔力を持って具現化される。おじいさまがしようとした魔術は多分そういうもの。鍵が無作為に選ぶ生贄
No,
の
she
抽
says
選。
probably. She's not entirely sure.
それに万が一自分が当たることがないように、この島に最も
But
人
yeah,
が多
like
く
I was
なる
saying,
日
he
を
doesn't
選
want
ん
them
で
to die,
儀
so
式
he
に実
has
行
more
した。
people than 13.
バカバカしい。これらが全て怪しげな魔法の儀式の過程で起こった事件だと言い出すのですか？
If we're saying grandfather's part of the original 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe Shannon was the extra. So he's part of the original 6, meaning maybe there's someone else who's dead that we don't know yet that's not on this chart. And so he yelled. She couldn't stop thinking fearfully about how she might have been protected just because of the scorpion charm. If I hadn't received that charm from Jessica and hung it from my doorknob, I would have been killed, been one of those 6. And the strangest part is, even though I hung the charm from the inside of my door, they couldn't get through the door. The killer had noticed the charm from outside the door and given up trying to open the door. A human couldn't have perceived that. The charm meant to stop someone that was not human had done just that.
だが夏井さん、確かに碑文の内容はその後なぞっとる。
第二の晩に残されし者は寄り添う二人を引き裂け。
Those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close.
これはエヴァ様たちのことを指しているのでしょうか。
悔しいけどそうだと判断せざるを得ない。そして母さんたちを殺した犯人は 続く第3の番の言葉を手紙に書き、その場に残したんだからね。
そうだな。第2の番を実行し、第3の番をその場に残した。第3の番はまさにさっき夏日おばさんが読んだ通りだぜ。
On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. Now I read it, just keeps going on, doesn't it? On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. Gouge the head and kill. George Anaki's parents were killed with the demon's ice picks gouged in their heads. Well, if that counted as the second twilight, someone else must be gouged in the head. Yeah, grandfather was gouged in the head.
焼却炉の中で焼かれてたから、そっちに目がいっちまって気づかなかったが、じいさまの眉間に、いや、頭をえぐられてた。
じいさまが第4の番の犠牲者じゃあカノン君は
第5の番に胸をえぐりて殺せ。カノン君については犯人との突発的な遭遇による犯行だと思ってたけど、違う。
I think they're talking twilight as in like the end of a life, like it's going lights out on a life. Because yeah, it's only been one night.
誰か一人
We're now
を
on
お
the
びき出し、
second.
胸を貫くことを初めから狙っていたんだ。
もし犯人がこれをなぞっているとしたなら、また3人が死ななければならないというのですか。
On the sixth twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the seventh twilight, gouge the knee and kill. The knee is a hard place to kill someone from, I would imagine. On the eighth twilight, gouge the leg and kill.
確かにそう読み取れますけど。
And that's 3 individual deaths, not like the original 6 or then the pair.
いや、そいつはどうかな。あと3人が死ねば。第9、見てみろよ。
On the ninth twilight, the witch revives, and none shall be left alive.
私たちはベアトリーチェにみんな殺される。
わけがわかんねえ。結局何人いようが最後には全員死ぬってことじゃねえか。じいさまは何が目的だったんだ。この儀式じゃじいさま自身何をどうしたって生き残れねえじゃないか。
誰も生き残れなくていいんだよ。第10の番には黄金鏡にたどり着く。
On the 10th twilight, the journey ends, and you shall reach the home of the gold. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures.
おじいさまは死を恐れてなんかいなかったんだよ。ほら、4つの宝の2番と3番を見てごらんよ。
一つは全ての死者の魂を蘇らせ、一つは失った愛すらも蘇らせる。つまりおじい様は自分がこの儀式の途中で死んでしまっても、
バカバカしいぜ。死んだらそれまでだろ。死者は生き返らない。人類が何千年もかけて追い求め、結局は未だに成し遂げられない。つまりこういうことだろ。死後の世界で再会できて蘇ることができるとか、そういう類だろ。
ジェシカの言い分通りだとするなら、追い先短いじい様が恋に狂っての自殺まがい、いや壮大な無理心中ってことなのか。
天使、その可能性を考えられるのですか。
わかりません。親方様は時に1000年の未来を見越されるほどのしかし凡庸な私にはそれが狂気としか映らないこともある。
それってイエスって意味だよな。熊沢さんはどうなんだよ。
私は何も知りません。知りませんとも。 いたなら今日この島にいると思いますか？仮病でも何でも使ってお休みしていますよ。
おじい様の長年の友人である南條先生のご意見は？
源氏さんに同じです。金蔵さんは凡人をはるかに超越した方だった。そこにある種の人間離れした力すらも感じることはありました。私にも金蔵さんが何を考えてこの碑文を残されたのかわからない。
一つだけ言えるのは、仮にこの筋書きを作ったのがお父様であっても。
確かに少なくともじい様とカノン君を襲った犯人は他にいる。しかもそいつはこの碑文通りまだ事件を続けようとしている。
僕たちが深く考えなかった最初の手紙、あれには何て書いてあっただろう。
We thought back to the recitation of the letter last night. Beatrice had proclaimed something inside the letter. She had proclaimed that, in accordance with her contract with Kinzo, we'd collect everything of the Ushiromiya family as interest. But then she also revealed a special clause. If someone discovered the location of the gold grandfather had hidden, that right would be lost. At the time that the letter had been read, grandfather was still alive. At that time it had already been sealed with wax by the head's ring, and that grandfather had handed the ring over to Beatrice while he was still alive, by yeeting it out his window. Think about it that straightforwardly. You'd probably take that to mean that Beatrice is carrying out that strange contract and grandfather securing her that right. Simply put, it was the same as saying that grandfather knew of and approved of the contents of that letter. In other words, it's as though it was a joint message from Beatrice and grandfather, telling us that Beatrice will start collecting interest if we don't solve the riddle. In short, grandfather and Beatrice were telling us to solve the epitaph's riddle, and if we couldn't, they were saying they would kill us all following the procedure in the epitaph. What meaning is there to that? What do they want? I don't have a clue what it means.
ほら、ベアトリーチェからまた手紙だよ。
なんだって？
Maria was pointing at the top of the table where the canned food that everyone had been eating just now still lay. A Western-style envelope was sitting there. So what? Hello, Beardy. We're just about to read a letter from a ghost. Natsui let out a hysterical cry, looking between her own hand and the table, because the envelope that she had just opened was still grasped in her hand. Despite that, there was an envelope on the table.
なんだよ、どういうことだよ、マリア。その封筒はどこから出てきたんだ。
I love how he's locked every single cabinet, even just the books. They're all just locked. Like the like alcohol cabinet, sure, but you want like the encyclopedia? Nah, you gotta have the key for that.
今見たら置いてあった。
I love how she still goes ooh, even in her like demon form.
私は何も知りませんよ。
冗談じゃねえ。ここには俺たち8人しかいねえんだぞ。9人目がこっそり忍び込んでいたなんてこともあるわけがねえ。俺たちがちょいと肖像画の前に集まっていたわずかの隙しかないんだぞ。
Time to open it.
全員下がりなさい。壁へ下がりなさい。
Amatsu was pointing the rifle at Genji and the others, bellowing at them. Genji-san was overpowered, his face looking like he didn't have a clue what was going on. Of course, I felt the same, but a few moments late, I reached the same conclusion Aunt Natsuki had. Until just a few seconds ago, there was no letter like this on the table, and nobody had entered this room. That means someone among us placed it there during the few seconds when everyone was looking away, preoccupied with the portrait.
バトラ君、この封筒を開けて中身を読んで。
Well, thanks to Beardy, everyone here and in the video that will be posted on YouTube just lost the game. Enjoy, everyone. FYI, losing the game in this case means she shoots you, so I hope you enjoy getting shot by her. I picked up the envelope. It was still sealed with wax. Even without disturbing its contents, I realized that this was an unopened envelope, an unknown envelope. Maybe it's like a bayonet mount? That's the only thing I can think of. That you could put, like a bayonet in there. Without relying on a letter opener, I violently tore it open and pulled out the letter inside. The contents were as follows.
金蔵様の碑文の謎をお楽しみいただいているでしょうか。
I think this is the first time we have a voice for Beatrice. That's the player 2 option. You got to insert a coin to start player 2.
すでにご存知と思いますが、皆様方には時間が多くは残されてはおりません。どうか嵐が過ぎ去れば逃げ出すことができるという甘えをこのゲームに私と皆様方のどちらが勝つかの結果しかない。時間切れは私の勝ちとなる。引き分けはありません。そこをどうか誤解なきようお願い申し上げます。
って内容だぜ。
この手紙を誰が置いたかは明白ではありません。ですが疑わしき人物を絞ることはできました。あなたたちです。
I've narrowed it down to everyone who's not me.
奥様、それはあんまりにございます。
私は肖像画の前に行く直前、ここに缶詰を置きました。その時このような怪しげな手紙は決して置かれていなかったことを確認しています。そしてその時すでにジェシカとジョージ君、バトラ君は肖像画の前にいた。そして彼らはこの手紙が現れるまで肖像画の前を離れていない。
Okay, so her argument is, I looked, it wasn't there. Jessica, George, and Battler, so all the kids minus Maria, were in front of the portrait, which was, I could see them, so it couldn't be them because they were in my line of sight. Which leaves Genji, the 2 remaining servants, and Maria. Of those, I think Maria is the most suspicious since she's the one who pointed it out.
あなたたち4人の中にその手紙を置いた人物がいる。ベアトリーチェがいる。
Beatrice is you!
おお、ベアトリーチャはマリアたちじゃない。
Maria is referring to herself in the 3rd person, which is interesting.
ベアトリーチャはいるもん。お黙りなさい。
It certainly looks like we're trying to murder her right now. Yeah, Maria is the kid who her aunt did things to her that a parent shouldn't do.
あなたたちの中の一人が疑わしいのか、全員が疑わしいのか分かりません。しかし確実にあなたたちの中に犯人が混じっている。そうだぜ。19人目なんかいるわけがない。魔女なんかいるわけがないんだ。カノン君を殺したのだって。そうさ、熊沢さんなら説明できるよ。
You think Kumasawa could kill Cannon like
熊
that?
沢さんは本当はカノン君と一緒にボイラー室に入り殺したんだ。そして後から来たらもう倒れていたと嘘をついた。
誤解です、お嬢様。私がなぜそのようなことを。
母さんたちをどうやってあの密室で殺したのかは。でも母さんたちが殺された時、使用人の人たち以外の全員にはアリバイがなかったのは使用人の人たちだけ。でも本当に疑ってもいいんだろうか。
確かにそれを言い出したら全ての件でアリバイはないが。
Should we really be so quick to make that judgment? How is everyone forgetting the murders of Eva and Hideyoshi inside a locked room, which we've already established no person could go in. We have not solved that case. This time, in this room, in this place, in this moment, in this minimally small bit of time and space, it's obvious. Only one of the four of them can have set the letter there in our blind spot. It was... Well, if you look at it here, this is Maria's statement. However, it was kind of universally agreed upon that the door to that room was locked. The chain was on it. So even if you could unlock the door, which the servants did have a key, the chain was on. If you were to, say, break the chain, there'd be no way of putting it back on. Any, I guess, way of, cutting the chain and then welding it back together would, one, have been very time-consuming, and two, you probably would have seen it. Genji and Kumasawa were the ones who, and Canon, were the ones who rejected that there was a secret passage in Grandfather's study. We can't tell who put it there, but it's obvious that one of the four did it.
夏日さん、どうか落ち着きなさい。今日一日いろいろなことがあった。心が参っているのはよくわかります。
南條先生をお疑い申し上げるのは非常に心苦しいです。
Okay, so the first set of murders, so the 6 plus abducting Grandfather, could have been done, I think, by any of the remaining people. Eva and Hideyoshi, so far, from the evidence we've seen, at least from the case this time, because remember, there's 3 other question arcs, doesn't seem like anyone's. That leads me to believe that there is a Beatrice. Or that there is someone outside of this set of people. Because Canon does see someone when he goes to fight, before he is stabbed in the chest. He sees someone. So we are definitely near the very end. Yeah, I think we're probably under an hour left in this, so I didn't expect this to be a super long stream. So the way this game works, so there's 8 arcs in total. There's the 4 question arcs, which they're supposed to set up, these mysteries. How did they kill 6 people? How did they get in this locked room? How did the letter get here? But not answer them. You are not supposed to find the answers in these because you won't have enough information. However, once you finish the 4 question arcs, you get to the 4 answer arcs, which each one is, if it's the same as Higurashi, which I believe it is, each one is a direct answer to all of the questions you had in the original question arc. They are not exactly the same from what I remember. Keep in mind, I've only watched the anime once, and it was about 8 years ago. But from what I remember, since the original 6 people are chosen randomly, each time a different 6 people are killed. If you remember the promises of... If you remember the promises of Beatrice, one of them is, at the end, everyone who has died will come back to life. Meaning, everyone will be back and we can do this a second, a third, a 4th time and keep going. However, I believe the way they do it is like a time loop so that we don't remember all of the things we saw this time, because then if Canon was alive, maybe you could say, oh, it was Maria who killed me, because I saw her. Yeah, exactly. It'll be the same cast, the plot will change, the people who die change. The only thing that I'm pretty sure is consistent is we always take the role of battler, So chances are we're probably never going to die until near the end. Because otherwise it would be a very short arc if we're one of the original 6 who dies. Unless that does happen, and then we switch to like George's or Jessica's perspective. Also, from a narrative point of view, I think it makes logical sense that like these 4 are probably going to die in the original 6 most of the time. Because if you look at it from a motive point of view, they're the ones who have the most to gain. And the kids are the ones who have the least to gain. So probably the kids are going to stay around most times. It's probably going to be mainly the adults who die as like the original 6. And then there's going to be a pair, so probably one romantic pair is always going to be around. So that could be any of those 3. It could be George and Shannon could be the romantic pair. Maybe there's some other relationships that we don't know of. Our grandfather's probably going to go missing every single time, because otherwise we go, hey old man, give us the answers, and, you know, just extort it out of him, torture him if we had to. And like Dr. Nanjo is probably going to be around for most of it, because again, he has nothing to gain from this. Most of the servants actually have nothing to gain unless they find the gold. It's pitiful to watch Dr. Nanjo frantically pleading his innocence. It was probably a normal reaction anyone would give if they were suspected. Kumasawa was the same. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Beatrice can be multiple people. Like, it's not necessarily one person. And we could be deceived. We could be deceived that grandfather was in that furnace when maybe it's someone who knew about his 6 toes, had a mannequin of him made or something. Probably not a mannequin since the doctor looked at him, but something similar. And that's the other thing, is looking at, okay, in this time, who's alive at the end? Because people who are alive at the end, people who die partway through can't be Beatrice, or at least if multiple people are Beatrice, at least one of them still has to be alive at the very end. Until everyone dies at the end, yes. Since Jessica started suspecting her in the murder of Cannon, she was now totally flustered. That was why Genji's still calm appearance looked so bold. Aunt Matsui pointed the barrel of the gun. Here we go, going directly to what Samus has just said. It was Genji, Beatrice, giving a performance to grandfather the whole time. Yes, and that is like a core thing that they've been talking about this whole time, is there's 18 people encapsulated here. 4, 7, 10, 13, 18. So it really comes down to, do you believe that there is someone outside of this 18? That someone has... that either there's a witch who does exist and is pulling all the strings. 2, there's someone else who is snuck onto the island, because it had to be before the typhoon, who has been here with us this whole weekend, slowly killing people off. I don't understand that question, Samus's. The door to the study does not have a seal, I believe. Yes, and the murderer could change each arc. That's another thing. Or murderers, plural.
それを私が鵜呑みにできると思いますか？お前が首謀者に決まっています。あるいは熊沢も南條先生もその共犯かもしれない。マリアちゃんもです。
Not content to doubt just the adults, Anatsuki pointed the gun relentlessly at Maria, too. Maria acted as though nothing had happened. Or maybe she thought she'd be fine even if she was shot.
今この場ではもう幼いから疑いの枠から外すという段階にない。だから誰もが昨夜からずっと持ってきた疑問をもう一度ぶつけさせてもらいます。昨日バラ庭園であなたに手紙を渡したベアトリーチェは誰です？
Alright, you are correct. Yes, Samsis is absolutely correct that the door to the study has the, was it a scorpion? The scorpion symbol on it, which would be a seal. Yeah, I suppose if you open the door, you're letting them in, so that would break the seal. That would be my assumption.
マリア、ごまかすんじゃねえぜ。この際はっきりさせろ。お前に手紙を渡したのは誰なんだよ。
だから何度も言ってるよ。ベアトリーチェだよ。1000年を生きる黄金の魔女なんだよ。姿を知りたければ後ろを振り返ればいい。ほら、そこにいるよ、ベアトリーチェが。
バカにしてんのかってね。
よせジェシカ、マリアもよせ。状況が分かってんのか。そんなこと言って何になるってんだ。無意味な挑発はよしやがるってんだ。
マリアには分かんないよ。バトラたちは誰が犯人ならいいの？自分たちの中に犯人がいると信じたくない時だけベアトリーチェ、親しい人を殺された恨みを晴らしたい時だけ暴力をぶつけられる人間の犯人を信じたがってベアトリーチェを否定する。だから見えないんだよ、ベアトリーチェはいる。お前たちには見えない。
黙りなさい。
I think Maria was saying that look at the portrait, but it could also be that they did let the actual Beatrice in when they opened the door.
あなたが犯人だと決めつけたくはありませんが、この状況を不愉快にさせて楽しんでいる利的行為者であることはもはや疑いの余地もありません。
I think that's part of the point.
ならどうするの？マリアを撃つ？別にいいよ。もうすぐ黄金鏡の扉が開かれる。そして全ての死者がよみがえる。今や死は恐れるべきことではないんだよ。
But the way I look at it, if in Act 1 you make this character look so suspicious, and you have 7 more acts, surely it can't be that person. Right?
一緒になんかいられないよ。
でも夏日おばさん、どうか落ち着いて。マリアちゃんを撃つ理由は何もない。どうか冷静に。手紙は挑発するけど何も恐れることはない。犯人だって明日が怖いんだ。警察が怖いんだ。この島は今無秩序に支配されているけれど、それは台風で隔離されているからだけに過ぎない。台風が過ぎれば秩序が戻ってくる。だからおばさん、撃っちゃいけない。
なんで調子兄さんはそんなにも冷静なんだよ。この4人の中に犯人がいる。いや、あるいは4人が全員来るかもしれない。この中にエヴァおばさんたちを殺した犯人がいるかもしれないってのに。
僕だって犯人を見つけて殺してやりたい気持ちはあるさ。でもそれは単なる蛮行だ。僕は罪の裁きを秩序に任せる。 だからどんなに疑わしくても引き金を引いてはいけないんだ。
ジョージの兄貴に同じだ。夏日おばさん、ここはちょいと冷静になろうぜ。とにかく撃つのはまずいぜ。こういう時はよ、頭を後ろに反らしてクールになれって3回唱えるといいらしいぜ。
はっきりさせておきます。魔女などいない。ここは
I
六
don't
軒島
think she
で、
heard us.
ここは後宮家の本家屋敷です。後宮家代表後宮夏日として宣言します。ここには魔女などいない。ベアトリーチェなど認めない。何を企もうとも娘たちには指一本触れさせない。それが母としての、当家代表としての務めです。
Those words were the final words of farewell that settled everything. Protect your daughter, and Aunt Natsui would regard any suspicious person as an enemy. The only reason George Anarchy and I were standing on this side was because, by coincidence, we had a clear alibi regarding the letter. If I hadn't approached the portrait, I too may have been at the other end of that gun barrel, treated like a criminal. Even though part of me thought that, part of me was thinking that chasing all the suspicious people from this room would finally guarantee our safety. Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, Dr. Nanjo, all of them were on grandfather's side. Even say that Marie was on grandfather's side since she had a blind belief in Beatrice. That's right, they're all suspicious. But is this really alright? Is it really alright for us to fight back against the lawlessness of the witch by throwing out all the suspicious ones without due process? Aunt Natsui didn't tell them to leave with her own words. But with wordless pressure, she was inducing them to say that themselves. So if Dr. Nanjo hadn't said those words, this cold silence would surely have continued forever.
好きなさい、夏日さん。だが気持ちはよくわかる。わしだって今朝からの異常な事件続きで頭がどうかなってしまいそうだ。だからわしらを疑いたい気持ちもよくわかる。
もし本当に南條先生が無関係なら、私は無礼極まりないことをしているのだと思います。ですが、今だけは分かってください。
わかった。わしらは部屋を出ましょう。どうですかな、源氏さん。客間に戻ってチェスの続きといきませんかな。
それをお望みでしたらぜひ。
私は嫌ですよ。だってこの中に狼がいると分かってて部屋から追い出されてしまうんですよ。嫌ですよ、奥様。どうかお許しください。
What Kumasawa-san was trying to say made total sense. She was innocent and she's being injected into dangerous territory along with the culprit. The current situation, pressing her to leave this room along with the suspect, was almost exactly the same as letting her get killed. However, Kumasawa-san really was suspicious just for being the first one to discover that Kanon-kun had been murdered. That time, everyone except Kumasawa-san had an alibi. As long as the use of some trick or the existence of some 19th person could not be established, Kumasawa-san was the most likely suspect so far. I didn't want to believe it, however. Anatsuhi and the rest of us were in such a difficult situation that we couldn't help doubting any of them, Kumasawa-san included. So we didn't say anything to stop Aunt Natsui from trying to oppressively chase them from the room. We'd stopped her from shooting, but when it came to exiling them from the room, we were passively agreeing. Maria spoke to the still fretful Kumasawa-san.
大丈夫だよ。ベアトリーチェは敬う人には優しいから。熊沢さんはベアトリーチェがいるって信じてるもん。だからきっと大丈夫だよ。マリアは客間でテレビを見るよ。一緒に見ようよ。ここテレビがなくてつまんないもん。
With the Kumasawa found Maria's roguish laugh very frightening. However, the three other people had agreed to leave the room. Kumasawa couldn't fight the flow and had to agree, crying as she left the room.
それでは夏日さん、今夜はこれで。また明日お会いしましょう。
今夜だけは分かってください。警察が来たら全員に今夜のこの無礼を必ず謝罪しますから。チェスもよろしいでしょうか。できたら安全なところに。
Now, the other option here is Aunt Natsuhi planted the letter and lied that when she looked at the table it wasn't there, to chase everyone else out and kill the remaining 3 people inside, thus fulfilling the prophecy, or the epitaph.
ゲンチ、頼みます。
かしこまりました。
I feel like during the course of discussing things, other than Jessica, George, and ourselves, I feel like we've said basically everyone here, except maybe Nanjo, is suspicious. Which to me is the sign of a good mystery. If at different points you're like, you're suspicious, no wait, you're suspicious, then you've done a good job. There's a great video. Let me find it. There's a great video series that my wife and I watched. What's that game called? It's a game where you're a reporter going to a city, like a village, where like there was like a bunch of murders. Payne's Creek Killings is what it's called. If you have not played Payne's Creek Killings and know nothing about that game, but love a good murder mystery, or just like a good mystery in general, I highly recommend, 1, search 0 things about it, learn 0 information about it, and play it. Don't look up guides, don't look up anything, just play it. However, if that's not your kind of thing, it's on Steam. Let me see what else it's on. Is it currently on sale? That'd be fantastic. It's currently on sale on Steam, 60% off. So it's currently $8.80 Canadian. I know the Aussie dollar is about similar, so under $9 for you probably, or thereabouts. But if that's not for you, there's a guy who does a great video where he found a bunch of people who played it as a blind playthrough and like charted all of them as they made their way through, and like had like the cork board of, okay, here's all like the, you know, the findable items, here's, you know, sphere 1 progression, here's sphere 2 progression, and so on, and mapped out where everyone went to. And basically what he was trying to figure out was, what makes a good mystery game? And at what point do people lock in their final predictions? Seeing if I can find... And tracks different people through screens. We'll see if I can find it. If not, I'll look for it after this stream. Thank you for that URL. I'll try to find it after stream. But basically, this person makes a video essay where they take the different people, and I think there's 4 different people who played this game as like Let's Plays on YouTube VODs, entirely blind, and themselves included. now that I think about it. They were one of the people where they had played it, put it online as a VOD. Maybe, let me see if it's in like my liked videos or something. Oh, found it. So, and I'll drop a link to this in chat after. Thank you for the hydrate. If you look up, their name is Vote for just the number 4 Holt, Holt. They did a whole video essay that they called the Paynes Creek Killings Experiment. Where, like I said, they took, I think it's 4 different sets of streamers. I think one of them's a pair, so I think it's 5 different people. And tracks, thank you for the playlist link as well, and tracks all of their progress, marks out, like, here's the sphere progression of all the items, and, here's where people went. Some people miss things, some people, you do things in different orders, because you just, in this game, you're a journalist, you're just dropped into this village, and your goal is to solve this murder that happened, whatever it is, like 20 years ago. That's just all the introduction you get to the game. And it's like a whole, think of it like a very small, like, medieval village. There's like a dozen roads, there's a manor house, there's like a medical facility, there's like all this stuff. I will love to see this message about this game. But you're just dropped in, and you can start just basically going and doing whatever. And you collect your journal entries, you piece this information together. And I think even at the start, they highly, highly recommend that you keep a whole notebook on this game. Because you're going to find, like, information, codes, like, all this stuff. It's going to be so hard to keep track of. But yeah, if playing that game is not for you, and it's probably maybe like a 10-hour playthrough-ish, give or take. Less if you're following a guide. But I recommend just trying to play it. It's not too hard in terms of trying to find stuff. There's definitely harder old games. I'm currently playing one with my wife called Scratches, which is on Steam, but the developer had to, like, it's physically on Steam. You can wishlist it, but that's all. Because the producer of the game went bankrupt, so no one owns the license anymore. It's in that weird limbo hell of no one actually owns this, like, IP anymore, because they went bankrupt and had to, like, give away, the rights to your intellectual property. So technically no one owns it. So the developer themselves has openly come out and saying, if you want to play the game, just pirate it. Because it's literally not accessible anywhere. Oh yes, thank you, Beardy. I have seen this game. I know a very little bit about it. I've seen one person play it. So I know a tiny bit of the mechanic, but I don't fully know. I know it goes in phases. There's like a setup phase and then like a playthrough phase. That's all I really know about it. But yeah, if people want, so Scratches is like a point-and-click murder mystery. So it's one of those, like pre-rendered, if you've seen like old-school Nancy Drew games, that's basically what it is. And a 32... I swear this game just came out like 2 weeks ago, and there's already a 32-part series. Yeah, so if you like Nancy Drew's, like the old-timey ones where you're in an area and you have to like click to turn and like click to investigate stuff, and then you have like your old-timey like menu of items that you have to like drag out and like interact and stuff, Scratches is there. You can easily find it online and just pirate it. and it's also about a dozen-hour-long game. That one is tough. I have had to look up a guide at least a dozen times because I'm like, I don't know what to do. There's not necessarily a clear next thing you're supposed to be looking at. And sometimes there was some where I'm like, I didn't even know this place existed, or you had to look at a room with the blind open to see it. If you're a fan of Nancy Drew, there's also entire bundles online of less than sketchy things that you can download as well. But yeah. Anyways, back to... That was a whole tangent about why everyone here should go and either play or watch Payne's Creek Killings. If you like this kind of murder mystery and all that. So where were we? We just ordered the servants out. They're leaving. Kumasawa-san is not super jazzed about it, though.
小面の熊が一番恐ろしいと言いますから。
源氏も熊沢も本当に申し訳ありません。また明日お会いしましょう。マリアちゃんも冷たいおばさんを。マリアは許す。
奥様、この部屋の鍵です。2本すべてをお預けします。
Can you imagine if Genji leaves and then just an hour later just comes back in because he kept the keys? Genji-san pulls out the 2 golden keys from his pocket and handed them to Aunt Natsugi.
それから私が持っているお屋敷内の鍵束もお預けいたします。
He took out a bundle of about 10 keys of various shapes and handed it over. The servants, those keys were probably proof of their position. Being placed in charge of those keys meant that they were trusted, relied upon. Being forced to return them meant that they had lost that trust. Thinking about it this way, there can be no greater humiliation for Genji-san, who had served here for all these years. However, his usual indifferent expression remained on his face.
私はお前をお父様がお亡くなりになったら長年の苦労を願い
I will now allow you to retire by shooting you.
なのにこのような仕打ちを私は心より恥じます。
私は親方様よりすでにご恩を受けております。
Can you imagine if that's all he wants, but then Beatrice brings him back and is like, man, it was so nice and cozy in death.
今日までの日々はそれに対するご恩返しの日々であっただけです。どうかお気にやまれませんよ。
それでは参りますかな、皆さん。おやすみなさい。
おやすみ。バトラもおやすみ。
あ、マリア、ちょっと待て。
Guilt made me call Maria back. I groped around my pocket and took out that scorpion key holder.
これ、魔除け
Which means we lied when we said we lost
身
it.
につけとけ。
バトラ、確か落としてなくした。
あんときゃ、なんか尺になって、なくしたとかホラ吹いただけだ。お前の大切なお守りを、なくすわけねえだろ。
Marie silently took the charm. I was unable to say anything after that.
それでは皆様。
Well, the charm just left the room. We're all screwed. We just opened the door, so I'm sure Beatrice is inside here now. Unable to respond, we watched them leave, our expressions completely tired out. And until the door closed and we heard the auto lock, we were unable to even draw our next breath. And then when I was finally allowed to take a breath, I noticed that Beatrice's letter, which I'd been gripping the whole time and which was soaked with my sweat, actually had 2 sheets. Dang. We did the thing of, like, you're writing the test and you're like, dang, there's a 6th page? The paper had been tightly stuck together, so I'd mistakenly thought that there was only one. There was nothing written on the second sheet. The thing drawn there was a magic circle, written with a red ink like blood. It's the Triforce! The Triforce... We have to sacrifice 3 more people. 1 for power, 1 for wisdom, and 1 for courage. Just like how every magic circle up until then had been different, this magic circle was one that I had never laid eyes on. Inside the circle, a large triangle and a small triangle were fit together in a simple design. Just as before, there was writing in Hebrew, and it seemed clear that it held some kind of meaning. I wanted to know what that could be, but we just chased Maria, the only person who could understand the meaning of magic circles, out of the room. I think Battler just got confirmed for Smash after this. I thought of the magic circles as a second set of messages from Beatrice. What does this one mean? Damn it. We chased out all the suspicious people, and now all we have to do is stay barricaded here until morning, and then will everything be over? Once the typhoon has passed, when the seagulls cry, will everything be resolved? But the letter that had unexpectedly appeared in the study had rejected that naivete. It made it very clear that if time ran out, it would mean victory for the witch. When time runs out, is the witch planning to take on the offensive? Is she finally planning to display some fearful magical power? Maybe something that could have been used to kill 6 adults at once? Wait, when is time supposed to run out? I don't know anything. Even as she said that, Aunt Matsui couldn't stop gripping that rifle. There was no release in the tension of her expression. Of course, none of us felt like breathing a sigh of relief yet, at least not until we could hear the cry of seagulls once more. One thing I felt about this is it's definitely less filler, I feel. Higurashi starts with a lot of filler. After we chased them out, nobody said another word. We'd exile all the suspicious ones. Even though we had known that there might be some innocence among them, we'd exiled them all the same. We'd chased them out of this paradise, where people didn't have to doubt each other. However, our motive for chasing them out had been suspicion of our fellow man, the worst kind of crime for a human. We'd been able to accept the existence of a 19th person, of the witch. Then we might still be talking face to face, trusting in each other. In that instant, we'd agreed to chase out all of the suspicious people. But had that been the right thing to do? During this endless silence, we could do nothing but be quietly tormented by that sin. Aunt Natsui was facing the door, seated all the way back in her sofa, not letting go of her rifle even for an instant. She would probably spend the night staring at the door without a wink of sleep. George Aniki was gazing through a gap in the closed curtains by the window. What time are we at now? It's now 11:30. So we exiled them, geez, like 5.5 hours ago. Looking down at the courtyard and the mansion that surrounded it, whether he was checking to see if any suspicious shadows would become visible through the window, or whether he was engaged in some deep internal conversation, I couldn't tell. Jessica was sitting at an angle on the sofa next to Aunt Natsuhi's with a dead expression on her face. Every once in a while, as though she'd remembered something, she would take out her inhaler that she'd used during her asthma attack and stick it in her mouth. I just heard it from Aniki, but apparently Jessica liked Kanon-kun. It seems that it was such a vague thing that she hadn't realized it herself, you know? It's the kind of thing that other people tend to spot before the person in question realizes it. In that case, she might have first learned of her feelings when the person she liked died. It was truly pitiful and sad. Come to think of it, Kanon-kun had been the one to hand her that inhaler. Maybe she was remembering that. As for me, I was fishing around Grandfather's study, thinking I'd research the meaning of the magic circle on the second sheet of the letter. Even though we were shut up here in a defensive position, my rebellious nature made me want to keep up the offense, find some key to all of this. We have plenty of time until tomorrow morning anyway. No matter what I do at that time, no one can find fault with it. No one else showed that much interest in this magic circle. Its meaning was unknown, and once we understood it, we were sure to find some message that would cause us unnecessary anguish. I also agreed about this. However, I still couldn't let it go, so I killed some time pretending to research it.
熱心だね。何か手がかりになるようなことは見つけられたかい？
さっぱりさ。そもそも日本語で書かれた本を探すことからして骨だぜ。じいさまは一体何カ国語を読めたってんだ。大したもんだぜ。
バトラ君は眠くないの？誰かが起きていてくれてるうちに休んだ方がいいよ。ナスヒおばさんは寝ズバンをしてくれると言ってるけど、体が持つわけない。
Samus's is less than killing uncles?
ローテーションで休んだ方がいいよ。
じゃあ兄貴が先に休めよ。俺は眠気が来るまでちょいと調べ物をしてるさ。
さっきの魔法陣？
まあな。どうせ時間は腐るほどあるさ。ベアトリーチェ様がどういうメッセージを込めやがったのか。
よせよ。そういうのやってると妙なのに取りつかれちまうぜ。
安心しろよ。俺はマリアにお墨付きをもらってるぜ。俺には霊的才能は活気しなんだとよ。
マリアのこと邪険に
ジェシカ、今はそれを考えてはなりません。
でも母さん、もしもマリアが無関係で犯人が他にいたなら、犯人は襲いやすい相手を狙うに決まってる。それで殺されたなら私たちは見殺しにしたことになるよ。
Gloomy silence settled once again. Actually, are they now grayed out because we don't know about them? Okay, no, she's still alive. It looked like Jessica regretted that she'd let her emotions take hold of her and snapped at Maria. She was always like that. Always acted tough, went too far and regretted it
気
later.
持ちはわかりますが、マリアは犯人と接触し、こともあろうか、その肩を持つように煙に巻く発言を繰り返しています。私はこの部屋から追い出せて、
夏日おばさんって結構きついっすね。9歳の女の子のザレ言かもしれないじゃないっすか。
Even though I thought I was being brazen saying that, I myself thought Maria was creepy on several occasions today and doubted her true nature. And when Maria had been chased out of this room, I couldn't deny that I felt some
もし
relief.
そうだったなら明日謝罪します。彼らをこの部屋から追い出したのは全て私の責任です。だからあなたたちが気に病むことはないのです。
I could feel a tragic determination in Aunt Natsuki's words. Protect her own daughter, she'd resolutely chase out the suspicious ones. And if as a result she'd left to die those people who had the misfortune to be suspected, so be it. She's prepared to take full
なんでマリアっ
responsibility.
てあんなことばかり言うんだよ。自分で自分の首を絞めてるぜ。
もともとマリアちゃんが魔女や魔法に傾倒するようになったのは、僕はローザおばさんのせいじゃないかと思ってる。
Well, to protect her daughter, she exiled someone else's daughter.
ローザおばさんのせい？何がどう関係してるってんだ？
バトラ君だって気づいてるんじゃないかい？マリアちゃんの本当の父親はずいぶん昔に蒸発してるんだ。おばさんはそれを海外出張とか言ってごまかしているけどね。
後宮家ではローザさんたちに関わる話はタブーとされているところがあります。
おばさんは再婚だって考えたと思うよ。でもマリアちゃんの存在が枷になって非常に難しかったんじゃないかと思うんだ。だっておばさんは時折ものすごく感情的にマリアちゃんに当たっていたから。
それについては同感だぜ。ローザおばさんはマリアを好きになろうと努力してるようにってことは、つまり好きじゃないってことなんだよな。再婚の妨げになっているマリアに思うところがあったんだろうよ。
母親の感情的な拒絶がきっと彼女の幼い心に深い傷を残したと思うんだ。そしてどこかでオカルト趣味と出会い、心の隙間を埋めるように没頭していく。知ってるかい？マリアちゃんにとって魔女のイメージは決してネガティブなものじゃないんだよ。ほら、昨日海岸でマリアちゃんのノートを見せてもらわなかったかい？
ああ、なんだか楽しそうな落書きでいっぱいだった。
Yesterday, when we doubted the witch down by the beach, Marie had gotten all riled up and started explaining about witches. One of the pages had shown a picture of an ugly witch. They were all brightly colored, beautiful, cute witches who looked like they were having fun. They probably came from Wicked. There was absolutely nothing sinister about them, like a boy might have imagined. They were beings adorned with beautiful dresses, who could grant anyone's dreams with their mysterious magic and who made everyone happy. The sorrow of not being loved by her mother had Maria sought salvation from the witches as beings who could save her from that sorrow and make her happy. Someday a witch would come, and using her wonderful magic would bring Maria happiness. Even though she believed that, as she grew older, she had to face reality as her fleeting dreams were sliced to ribbons one by one. If in front of a girl like that, something claiming to be the Witch of Rokenjima appeared, and whispered that she would take Maria to the Golden Land where Maria could be happy.
僕は今頃になって胸中を告白するよ。マリアちゃんを、いや、源氏さんたちを追い出したのは多分いけないことだったんじゃないかな。
気まずくはあるぜ。
Since Jessica had been the one to face them and slam them with words of rejection, her conscience must be tormenting her a lot right now.
なら皆さんはあの手紙をどう説明するのです？私の後ろにいた4人以外の誰にも置くことはできなかった。それは私がこの目ではっきり確認しています。あの4人が潔白だというなら、どうやってこの密室の8人もの人間がいる中で手紙を。
そうなんだよ。その話が始まっちまうと。だが全然ダメなんだ。ああ、全然ダメだぜ。
ダメって？
ああ、もう今さら何の役にも立たないかもしれねえが、つまりあの4人が本当に犯人だってんならよ。
そうだぜ。あんなテーブルの上に堂々と置いたら、この中に犯人がいますよと告白するようなもんじゃねえか。そうだよ、おかしい。やるなら例えば扉の隙間に置いて廊下側から差し込まれたように。そうだよ、部屋の外に犯人がいるように見せかけなきゃ自分が疑われてしまうことが分かってたはず。
ああ、そういうことなんだ。あの4人の中に犯人がいたとしてテーブルのど真ん中に手紙をポンと置くことはリスクばかりで何の意味もないんだ。だがどうやってそこに手紙を置いたかのトリックは置いといて、あの4人以外の誰か、すなわちこの部屋の外に犯人がいたと仮定したとき、あの手紙には大きな意味がある。
Time to go inside and find them all dead.
よしなさいバトラ君、今さら些細な問題です。
Natsui quickly guessed what I was getting at. No, maybe she'd thought of it long before I had and had simply held her tongue.
この部屋の外に犯人がいて、俺たちが外からは手出しをできない密室に立てこもっちまったらお手上げだ。ああ、そうだよ。この部屋からじいさまがいなくなったって話の時、俺がじいさまが自分から出ていくという説、自分から出ていくような何かの細工を犯人がしてまんま。
Come to think of it, even Marie had said that we'd found the scorpion magic circle on the doorknob to the study. Beatrice couldn't get through this door, but she might be able to induce someone to leave of their own accord.
だとすると私たちは犯人の罠に見事はまって新しい生贄候補を送り出しちまったことになるぜ。
源氏たちもバカではありません。身を守ろうと思うなら この部屋の次に安全な場所をすぐに思いつくでしょう。そこできっと身を潜めています。
Anmatsui hadn't answered the question. She herself realized that if the culprit wasn't in that group, that letter could easily have been a trap. However, it wasn't worth the risk of calling back the people she had once thrown out. To Aunt Natsuhi, right now, her greatest and only duty was to protect the children. Well, the implication here is now Beatrice is real. Beatrice couldn't make it inside of this room because of the scorpion doorknob. However, she can use magic to change stuff inside of the room. Maria already alluded to the fact that Beatrice could teleport inside the room. So it seems like she can use magic to influence the room but not directly go through a door, ? So you could, knowing that, you could put the envelope inside and then force us to have a fight and kick 4 people out so that she can finish killing 3 more. To that end, she was thinking a few sacrifices may be an unfortunate necessity.
夏日おばさん、きついこと聞くぜ。もしあの時、たまたまジェシカもおばさんの後ろにいたなら、おばさんはこの部屋からジェシカも追い出してたかい？確かに残酷なところはあったかもしれない。でも、夏日おばさんは母として娘を守りきろうと思った。その責務から自分がやがては糾弾されることを覚悟で、彼らを、俺は別にそれを責めてえわけじゃね
え。Hello, how's it going?
ただ、ジェシカはいいお袋を持ったなって、そう思ったのさ。
そうだね。夏日おばさんは朝からずっと続いているこんな事件の中でも冷静さを失わず、ずっとみんなを牽引してきてくれた。もしおばさんまで混乱していたら、僕たちは今頃全員犯人の手にかかっていたかもしれない。
Well, you're in the right place then.
だから、
I think we're just nearing the end of this arc.
ありがと
う。バトラたちの言いたいことは、つまりこういうことだろう。マリアの母でもあってほしいって。私、マリアのことを実の妹みたいだとずっと。なのにいろんなことがあってちょっと混乱しちゃって、ひどいことをたくさん言って傷つけてしまった。母さん、お願い。マリアも、みんなも一緒にいようよ。私たちの中に犯人なんていなかったんだよ。この事件の犯人は魔女のベアトリーチェでいいじゃないか。
I think we're gonna leave the room, Sam says.
だからもう疑い合うのはやめようよ。
And Natsui closed her eyes for a short while. Was she coping with her throbbing headache again, or was she thinking of something?
ジェシカは
I think we're gonna see more dead people, Sam says.
主人と結婚してから12年もかけてようやく授かった。私はジェシカを守るためならどの。
Some pretty strong language at the end there. She realized very well that these were only words, but even so, she was strongly resolved to protect her daughter, even if she had to become a demon. But that was because she was tormented by guilt. They had been so long. So many things had happened in one day, and we'd been put under such pressure. I wonder if we have the right to greet tomorrow the way we are now. Yes, we have played through all of Higurashi, at least the core arcs, arc 1 through 8, and then the Rei arc. I've also played through every other one of the Chapter 4 mod, the like 20 other arcs, and read a few others as manga that I could find. But and I've watched the Umineko anime, but this is my first time playing through the visual novel. There it is.
見つけた。この魔法陣だ。
Yeah. Yeah, I think on the YouTube channel, starting with, I think, the third arc of Higurashi. All the ones I played through there. The first one I did a long time ago, before I was really on Twitch. The second one I did, but I think I wasn't recording at the time. But I think the third one onwards are all on Twitch, or on YouTube. I'm excited for the Silent Hill game that Ryushiki is helping with. I've never played a Silent Hill game. I've watched playthroughs of several of them. That'll probably be the first time I'm playing one. Oh, I did not read that out loud. Within the books I'd been constantly flipping through, I had finally found the same magic circle that had been drawn in the second sheet of the letter. George Anarchy peered at it as well. This magic circle's name was the Third Magic Circle of Mars. The Hebrew written on it was from the Old Testament book of Psalms, Psalm 77, verse 13. What God is so great as our God? And remember what Beatrice's letter was, that they will praise my name. The meaning of the magic circle was discord. It agitates internal divisions and causes the enemy to bring about their own downfall. Well, it did exactly that. Could there be a more fitting way to describe our current situation and mental state? We couldn't help but be stunned into silence.
じゃあこの手紙は罠だってのかよ。どうやってここに置いたんだよ。この部屋には私たち8人以外には誰もいなかったんだぜ。
とにかくどうやってここに置いたのか、その方法は捨ておくぜ。とにかく犯人の狙いはたった一つ。この鉄壁の書斎に疑心暗鬼を引き起こして、生贄の羊を俺たちの手で外へ放り出させることだったんだ。
だとしたら狙いは外へ出された人たちだ。
母さん、どうしよう。あの4人が危ない。
It wasn't surprising that Aunt Matsui remained pleasantly silent. Even if this was all a trap by the culprit, even if the four who had been chased out of the room were in danger, it had nothing to do with the safety of the 4 people in here. There was no way to prove the innocence of the 4 people we had kicked out. If we're willing to let them die, we shouldn't leave this room no matter what. That way is safest. Just then, all of a sudden, the piercing sound of the phone rang through the room. It was the antique extension phone that was set on Grandfather's study desk. It started ringing right as we began this conversation. It's only natural that we would think of it as an SOS from the other people we'd kicked out. Then Aunt Natsui spoke. I think everything's a trap.
そんなことは関係ねえさ。もしマリアたちが助けを求める電話だったら。
そもそも電話の普通が犯人の工作によるものならば、この電話はおそらく
That one sentence, the ring of the phone, which would sound like a scream for help, started to sound like a ghastly summons from some unknown person. Aunt Matsui hesitated over whether to pick up the receiver. Thank you for the hydrate, Avian. How are you doing?
おばさん。何かの理由で電話が回復したのかも。マリアちゃんたちからの緊急の電話の可能性もある。
そうだぜ。
Hope everyone's not sick of hearing a telephone in their ears yet. I know I'm not. Nice. Always gotta wait for the rice to cook.
それに万一犯人からの電話だったら上等さ。話を聞いてやろうじゃねえか。それにどうせ電話だ。受話器越しに何をほざいたって痛くも痒くもないぜ。
おばさんが取らないなら俺が取るぜ。
私が取ります。もしもし。
I stretched out my hand to take the receiver, but Aunt Natsui picked it up first, as if to say she had it under control. We all held our breath, trying to figure out who the person on the other end of the phone was. But for a while, Aunt Natsui just kept saying hello. So it was a telemarketer. A silent phone call? There's no way Marie and the others would do something so creepy, which means this phone call might possibly really... Natsui stopped repeating hello and strained her ears. She thought she heard something far away on the other end of the receiver. What was it? Who's ready for ghost singing?
歌って何ですか、おばさん。
わかりません。
I'm glad my mods are sharing their brain cell.
誰かが歌っているのが聞こえます。何のことやら。
ちょっと受話器を借りますぜ。
Also, people didn't catch it. This current track is called Hell's Halls. I'm sure that can only mean good things for everyone else.
もしもし。
I half forced the receiver from the stunned Aunt Natsui's hand and pressed it against my ear. At first I didn't hear anything. But because I'd been told about beforehand, I noticed. Not in a quiet voice, but rather far away from the receiver, I could hear a girl singing a song. I know this melody and I'm trying to place it. It's a girl, so it's clearly Maria singing it. One sec. I know I have this song. Oh, okay. We're pulling out the big gun. We're pulling out my elemental trumpet book, because I know I have this song in here. So I played this maybe... It didn't have lyrics, that's what's throwing me. Does it? Jeez, I want to find this so bad. Jeez, I'll give it another minute if I can't find it. Maybe they'll tell us if I... Knowing me, they're gonna tell us exactly in the next, like, thing if I click through. Jeez. Hello, hello. I'm trying to figure out what song there's playing. I know it. I know I played it recently in my trumpet book. I'm trying to find it. You come in a very exciting moment. can't find it. If I can figure it out later, I will drop that information in the Discord. Alright, let's see if they tell us in a few seconds. The voice sort of sounded like Maria's, but that just made the situation even more inexplicable. At the very least, the one who had made the phone call hadn't been Maria. After all, Maria was singing some song far away from the receiver. In that case, the one who made the phone call should have been Genshi-san, Kumasawa-san, or Dr. Nanjo. And yet, they weren't saying anything. Why? For what reason? Who was the person who made this phone call?
おいもしもし誰だ返事をしろ歌ってるのはマリアなのか返事をしてくれ
何が起こってんだよどういうことだ
わからねえ一つ言えることは多分これは罠でそして
Or Maria is the trouble. Natsui took the receiver again, but after calling it several more times, she realized she wasn't getting anywhere and hung up. She then dialed quickly and clucked her tongue. Alright, if the phones are back, we should be able to reach the police, but judging by her reaction, the outside line still wouldn't connect.
行こう。罠かもしれないことは分かってても、行かないわけにはいかない。
ああ、まったくだぜ。ジェシカと夏井おばさんはここにいてくれ。
Anaki and I tried to dash out. Aunt Natsui stopped us.
お待ちなさい。あなたたちだけに行かせるわけにはいきません。私も行きます。ジェシカはここで待ちなさい。
私だけのけ者かよ。冗談じゃない。私も行くぜ。
I so want to figure out what that song was.
そうだな。その方がいいかもしれねえぜ。電話が俺たちをさらに分散させる狙いがあるってんなら。留守番を残すのは適当じゃねえ。
議論する暇も惜しい。みんなで行こう。
Natsui raised the rifle high and took the lead. I needed a weapon myself as well. I found a three-pronged candelabra, which looked like it could be used for some strange ritual, and armed myself with it. The spikes would fit the candles on. Although they were short, it was almost like a three-pronged spear. I'm pulling the thing back down. I'll see if I can find it. It'll also be to help me remember after. When the four of us left the study, we left the study, which should have been the safest place inside the mansion. We've been lured out despite the fact that we had barricaded ourselves in a safe, locked room. Perhaps we were even, repeating exactly the same series of events that had led to Grandfather disappearing from there.
Maria! どこにいるんだよ!
I listened closely, but didn't hear anything. The mansion was vast, and the sound of the rain even noisier than before, as if the passing typhoon was making its last stand. Wow, I don't know if you saw it, there's a tiny window there that was like so horizontal. They still animated the rain through it. Maria-chan said that she wanted to watch TV in the parlor, right? Okay.
そうですね。行ってみましょう。みんなは周りに用心して。
おい。
With Aunt Natsui in the center and a rifle readied and her finger on the trigger, we moved in a group, our backs together, checking our surrounding in all directions. This was the one I was talking about. They animated the rain through it, even though that was totally not necessary. As though the power of that magic circle, designed to spread discord, had brought it all into being. It split up, and furthermore had been dragged into dangerous territory. In other words, even now, in this very moment, we were doing what the culprit wanted us to do. This was now a strange space where it wouldn't be odd for anything to suddenly occur. Natsui nervously pointed the barrel of the gun at every dark spot and shadow. felt like that motion was out of fear rather than caution. But the rifle she held in her hands would surely be our trump card that the killer was afraid of.
僕はずっと思ってたんだ。カノン君のように胸にあのアイスピックを突き刺すことは不可能ではないと思う。でも母さんたちのように頭蓋骨を打ち抜いて眉間に突き立てるなんて簡単なことじゃないと思うんだ。
犯人がそれだけバカ力ってことか。
多分あのアイスピックを飛ばす、あるいは打ち込む射出機のような武器があるんだよ。人力だけであれだけ深々と衝突するにはあの絵は短すぎる。
いずれにせよ頭蓋骨を打ち抜くほどに強力です。カノンの傷も肺にまで届いていたそうです。もし相手の姿を見ても決して前に出ないように。私の後ろから出てはいけませんよ。
How sinister and frightening was this weapon that could shoot those creepy ice picks? He could do, and could I do anything to combat it with just this candlestick in my hand? In the first murder, the culprit had probably assaulted 4 of our parents at once as they discussed the inheritance problem in the dining hall. We also had 4 people. Apparently I wasn't the only person thinking this. George Aniki, Jessica, and of course Aunt Natsuki were stretching their senses to the utmost limit in the highest and worst state of tension, slowly advancing one step then another. Ah, what sinful people we are. A world as terrifying as this, and we pushed Marie and the rest right into the middle of it, just because of the seeds of doubt spread by that single letter. We finally reached the first floor. The parlor was just across the hall. Okay. Do, 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 do. I still want to know it. Okay, I have another idea. I'm going to Google it from the tiny bits of lyrics I can get from it. Not that one. Something about flowers and sakura blossoms. No. I will look for it after. I feel like I've... Oh, we've got a link to tracks. But why don't I just Google this? Anyways, I feel like I've taken way too long looking at this. Let's keep moving. Maria's eerie singing voice. She wasn't singing naturally, as though she were in a good mood. She was singing mechanically, as if she was in music class in school and had been ordered to sing. The song she was singing was just a common folk song, one that everyone has probably sung in school at one time or another. Okay, what is this? Don't click on that link if you don't want a spoiler image immediately. Okay, that is definitely it. Apparently it's called Butterfly. Yeah. It's a traditional Japanese folk song called Butterfly. Let me see if I can find it now in this, or if I was completely... Because, I mean, I've definitely heard it, but not in Japanese. There's definitely like a translated version of it. Anyways, well, we solved that riddle. Thank you, Beardy and Samus's. Yeah, so the original is called Chocho, which is butterfly, and it's a traditional Japanese children's folk song. So for everyone who does not speak Japanese, here's what the lyrics Maria is saying mean. Butterfly, butterfly, resting upon the leaf of a rapeseed flower. If you get tired of resting there, you can rest on a cherry blossom. From one cherry blossom to another, rest and play, play and rest. Those are the lyrics she is saying, at least according to the translation on this YouTube video. But why that, in the middle of the night, alone, with all her heart, over and over? Why? When we had just left the study, we had called out in loud voices asking Maria where she was. But this time, no one said even a single word. We hid our breath and the sound of our footsteps, heightened all our senses, and examined everywhere around us to a neurotic degree, as we advanced each step. The door to the parlor was closed, but we could hear Maria's singing voice through it. Aunt Natsui put her hand on the handle of the doorknob. George Anarchy stopped her.
扉は僕が開ける。夏日おばさんとバトラ君は武器を構えてて。
I'm going to put a warning. What's inside here is not going to be nice.
わかりました。気をつけて。
開けると同時に攻撃してくるかもしれないぜ、ジョージ兄さん。注意して。
じゃあ行くよ。
We tried to open it, but immediately felt the hard resistance of the lock. Anatsui took a bundle of keys from her pocket and gave them to George. Thank you for that warning. There were about 10 keys, and none of us had a clue which was which. Because of this, George had to fumble around loudly and test several of the keys. Since we'd hidden our footsteps, preparing to make a surprise attack on the room, this felt almost fatal. The whole time we could hear Maria's voice from the parlor, singing the same song over and over. It was like a broken, crazy cassette tape. In the morning, we had been in that room the whole time. All of the frightening things had occurred outside that room. So we convinced ourselves that even if nowhere else could be trusted, that room alone was safe. Also, how do they lock this? Does this have a lock on the inside, or is it the key only? Because they gave us the keys. That baseless impression was quickly falling apart.
開いた。
ありがとう。ジョージ君とジェシカは後ろに下がって。
おばさん、一気に飛び込んで左右に分かれよう。扉を開けてボサッとしてたら例のアイスピックがど真ん中に飛んでくるかもしれねえぜ。
承知しています。いいですか？
やっぱ嫌だって言いてえな。
I readied myself. They're gonna throw ice picks at me. We'll see how they like my candlestick. I think Battler is what Clue was made after.
行きます!
A note about butterflies is to remember that butterflies is how Beatrice presents herself to mortals, is as a series of golden butterflies. There might be some symbolism there. Natsuhi and I rammed into the door as we flew into the parlor, quickly splitting up left and right and searching the parlor for someone who might be waiting for us. What our eyes landed upon was an altogether outlandish scene. The parlor was stained with blood. This place where we had spent almost the entire day, where we had pressed in together to protect ourselves from some unknown malice, become stained with fresh blood and become an ocean of blood. On the floor lay Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, and Dr. Nanjo, their entire bodies stained bright red with blood. But the only way we could identify them was by their clothes, and I think I heard a sound. Yep. And then there were 5. That was because... that's right. This was how this whole tragedy started. Their faces were all mashed up like Dad and the others in the storehouse, and you couldn't even tell where the eyes and noses were. It was like someone had vulgarly gobbled apart a tomato pot stew wrapped in a pie crust. All gobby and sloppy. Wow. And that wasn't all. Their bodies had other wounds. They were those demons' ice picks. They were in Genji-san's stomach, Dr. Nanjo's thigh, no, his knee. Yeah, it would be his knee. In the epitaph, the 6th Twilight was the stomach. On the 7th Twilight, gouged the knee. After seeing one of them stuck near Kumasawa Bachan's calf, I couldn't help masochistically laugh. Yeah, of course it would be. On the 6th Twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the 7th Twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the 8th Twilight, gouge the leg and kill. Now even the 8th Twilight is over. And the next one, the 9th Twilight, what was it again? Maria was there. This was the scene inside the YouTube link if you had clicked it. Yeah, no worries. She was facing the far wall, standing stock still, completely alone. Facing away from this horrible scene, standing in front of the wall, singing her song over and over. There was nothing else in the room, just the corpses of the three who had been brutally killed, and the receiver still off its hook, showing that it had been in this room that the call had come from. Just that and Maria, her back to the scene, facing the wall, she kept on singing. We couldn't even scream at this bizarre scene. Only stare shocked, our mouths hanging loosely open. Jessica called out to her, but Maria showed no reaction. Alone, she kept singing on and on. We had come here trying to save Maria from some approaching danger. So now that we found her, we should have been running up to her, hugging her, joyous that she was safe. And yet, not one of us could do that. Everyone thought it, but they couldn't say it. After all, because that's right, it's crazy and yet, but no, it couldn't be.
Maria!
Yeah, a lot of spaghetti sauce. At some point, Aunt Matsui and I had pointed our weapons at Maria's back. I yelled at Maria in a violent voice, but there was no reaction. She just kept singing. With the candlestick still readied, I ran up to her and forcefully, no violently, slammed my hand down on her shoulder. When I pulled on her shoulder, forcing her to turn around. Maria's small body was quickly pulled down and fell. As though unhappy about her singing about how her singing had been interrupted, she looked up into my face with her usual expression. Even in this gruesome situation, she was just like normal.
Maria, これはどういうことなんだ? 誰がやった?
ベアトリーチェ。
いい加減にしろ!
I threw the candlestick I'd been pulling against the wall. The violence of that reckless sound should have gone straight into Maria's heart, but her expression didn't change at all.
よすんだ、バトラ君。マリアちゃん、今度こそ君は3人を殺す犯人の顔を見たはずだよ。犯人は君に手紙を渡したというベアトリーチェなのかい？
おお、ベアトリーチェ。
ああ、ならこれで確定したぜ。19人目はいるんだよ。ベアトリーチェは実在するんだ。じゃあマリア、これくらいは教えてくれるよな。奴はこの3人をどうやって殺したんだ？何をどうやったらあんなむごい殺し方ができるんだ？
知らない。
知らねえってことはねえだろ。この部屋での出来事だぞ。歌を歌うのに夢中で気づかなかったとか言い出すんじゃねえだろうな。
落ち着いてバトラ君。マリアちゃん、僕とお話ししようね。
George again, as he always did, crouched down next to Maria so that their eyes met and talked to her very
マリ
kindly.
アちゃんはどうして壁を向いてお歌を歌っていたのかな？
ベアトリーチェがここでね、壁を向いてお歌をずっと歌っていなさいって言ったの。
じゃあベアトリーチェがここへやってきたんだ。その時にはまだ源氏さんたちは生きていたんだよね。
みんなで客間に来て座ってた。源氏さんはちゃんと鍵をかけてたよ。
確かに鍵はかかってたが、じゃあどうやってベアトリーチェは客間に入ってきたってんだ？
おお、でもベアトリーチェは魔女だから鍵なんか関係ない。蝶々になって扉の隙間から通り抜けてきたんだよ。
はあ？冗談も休み休み言いやがれ。そんなわけねえだろ。お
The
前は何を言ってや
butterflies
がる
were
ん
the
だ。
culprit.
信じられないよね。だから言いたくなかった。どうせ言っても信じないもん。
Yeah, the bees did it.
でもベアトリーチェは魔女なの。不思議な魔法で何でもできるの。だからベアト
それで現れたベアトリーチェは、そしてみんなはどうしたの？
ベアトリーチェは言ったよ。おじい様の書斎は強力な力に守られていてどうしても入れない。だからあと3人の生贄はこの客間の4人の中から選ぶって。みんな嫌だって言ったよ。熊沢さんは嫌だ嫌だってすごい言ってた。でもベアトリーチェは選ぶよ。 そしたらね、ベアトリーチェはマリアはいいよって言ってくれた。どうしてだと思う？バトラがマリアの安全を祈って念を込めてくれたあの火星の5の魔法陣のサソリのお守りがあったからだよ。だからその力でベアトリーチェはマリアにだけは何もできなかった。だから生贄はマリアじゃない3人に決まったの。そしたらね、ベアトリーチェはね、言ったの。
さあさあ、壁に向かってお歌を歌って聞かせなさい。あなたはたくさんたくさんお歌を歌うから、何が起こっても何が聞こえても聞こえない聞こえないわからない。さあさあ、楽しいお歌をわらわにたくさん聞かせておくれ。
だからマリアはずっとお歌を歌ってた。ずっと歌ってたんだよ。だから何も聞こえない、わからない。そしたらバトラたちがやってきたんだよ。
それを信じろってのか？バカにするんじゃねえぜ。
じゃあ今度は誰を疑う？マリアを疑う？マリアをこの場で殺してみる？
I mean, she's asking for it now. We might as well just shoot her.
そんなことしてもベアトリーチェはいなくならない。これで第8の番は終わったよ。
ふざけんな。もうそんな話は金輪際ごめんだぜ。魔女なんているもんか。煙に巻かれてたまるか。俺は認めねえぞ。ベアトリーチェなんていいね。絶対に俺が認めねえ。だから存在なんかさせねえ。蘇りもさせねえ。伝説は永遠に伝説のままだ。この俺がそんなことを認めね
え。よせよバトラ。マリアが殺したわけでも見殺しにしたわけでもない。ベアトリーチェが来てマリアは抵抗できず従わざるを得なかっただけだぜ。
あれ、夏日おばさん？おばさんがいない。
あれ、
母さんどこ行ったの？
さっき手紙を読みながら一人で出て行ったよ。
A letter? Makes sense. The culprit's on the 8th twilight and it's all gone swimmingly for them. They might well have left a letter so they could brag even more. Been so wrapped up in questioning Maria that we forgot to look for one. Even as well armed as she was, why had she left the room all by herself in this dangerous mansion after reading it? Jessica tried to chase after her and tugged at the handle of the door, but resisted strangely and wouldn't open. Okay, so we can confirm that there's no keyhole on this side. It was only natural. So he picked up the candlestick which Battler had thrown at the wall, which had fallen to the floor. Then skillfully wedged it between the doorknob on the double doors like a bolt, holding them closed. The intricate design of the candlestick meant it jammed well and formed a truly sturdy seal on the door. Tragic scream of a daughter for her mother. Did it reach Natsuhi's ears or not? Natsuhi was alone in the entrance hall. It's the place where the portrait of Beatrice had been hung. Natsuhi threw down the final letter from Beatrice that she had read in the parlor, readied her rifle again, and in a voice that rang clear, yelled in the massive space that was the entrance hall.
後宮夏日です。姿を見せなさい、黄金の魔女。
The entrance hall was dimly lit. Other than a faint light which shone on in the center of the room, everything was blotted out by jet black darkness. In that darkness, butterflies glittered in gold, squirmed, twinkled, and sneered. Natsuhi gave one more huge gulp and pointed the cold barrel of the gun at the golden butterflies.
ようやく姿を現しましたね。あなたのような存在は私は未だ信じることができない。でもそれは問題ではありません。後宮家の代表であると自負する私と 後宮家の当主を引き継いだと自称するあなたが今この場にいる。あなたが本当に魔女なのかどうかは今となっては些細な問題です。さあ決着をつけましょう。後宮家を真に引き継ぐ者はどちらか。この後宮夏日か、あなたベアトリーチェか。あなたの決闘の申し出、謹んでお引き受けさせていただきます。
Golden butterflies slowly formed a human shape, which walked into the dim light. Natsui readied the rifle and glared. The witch raised her golden staff over her head and laughed. Natsui's fingers slowly squeezed the trigger. Battler made an all-out dash at the door and rammed into it, crushing the candlestick that had been barring it, and making it possible for a big gap to be opened in the door. He kept kicking the candlestick through that gap, and the door was finally released. That time they heard it. They clearly heard just once the crisp sound of gunfire.
Jessica ちゃん、一人で先走っちゃいけない。今のは銃声だぜ。夏代おばさんが撃ったんだ。
At who? At the culprit? The noise had come from the entrance hall. The entrance hall looked like a stage. The heroine of a tragedy lying down and bathed in light. Arrayed in the beauty of that silence, Aunt Natsui was face up crumpled on the floor. Half crazed, Jessica ran up to Aunt Natsuhi. On her forehead, almost as though a sparkling shard of pigeon's blood, ruby had been placed there. And from it a single stem of blood makeup passed by her eye and began to traverse her face. The faint smell of gunpowder smoke came from the barrel of the rifle Aunt Natsuhi still grasped. Huh? Then she shot herself in the forehead? Why? We still have the question of where is the gold? Like, if you want to believe that Beatrice exists and killed everyone, then that's the easy solution to all the murders. But is there a way that a human could have done all of these?
わけがわからん。どうしておばさんは一人で抜け出して、どうして自分の額を撃ち抜いてるんだよ。マリアちゃん、夏日おばさんは手紙を読んでから部屋を出たんだよね。
Marie, come with us.
手紙がない。くそ、おばさんは何を読んで、どうしてここに誘い出されたんだ。
知らねえぜ。何なんだよ。どうして自殺なんだよ。私を置いてくんだよ。
Yeah, that's the other thing is, were all of these the work of Beatrice, or was there some human murders in there somewhere? Jessica clung to her mother's corpse, crying earnestly. My body consumed by anger, I didn't know what to do with. I stole the rifle from Aunt Natsui's hand and spun around, pointing the barrel of the gun into the darkness on all sides as though pointing the light from a lighthouse, trying to find the culprit. George Anarchy, even in this situation, was trying to calmly figure something out, but that effort might have been doomed to futility. And Maria alone is completely indifferent. You treating this as some kind of predetermined fate? No, that's not it. This is all a prelude to a wonderful world. The door to the Golden Land will finally open.
第9の晩に魔女は蘇り、誰も生き残りはしない。そして第10の晩に旅は終わり、黄金の里へ至るだろう。これで全部終わったね、ベアトリーチェ。おめでとう、おめでとう。だからマリアを導いて。あなたの話してくれた黄金鏡へ、今こそ。
There, all the dead will be resurrected, and even the love they once possessed will be revived. So in Maria's eyes, just as though all of today's tragedies never even happened. All those days she spent depraved of love never happened either.
いい加減にしやがれ。何が楽しい、何がおめでたい。 この島には18人いた。14人死んだ。残りは俺たち4人だ。俺は絶対に死なねえぞ。夜が明けるまで、いや台風が過ぎ去ってまた船着き場に海猫たちが帰ってくるまで、俺は生き残ってやる、生き残ってやる、絶対。
よしなよバトラー。ベアトリーチェに銃なんて意味ないよ。それに生き残るも何ももうおしまいなんだよ。もう旅は終わったんだよ。ほら時計を見てごらん。
Huh? Clock? Hearing those words, I looked at my wristwatch. Both hands were almost touching near the top. Very soon, it would be 12 a.m. In other words, 2400. Think about it, isn't 2400 a strange time? We call 2400 and also can be called 0. It's the hour at the culmination of the previous day, and at the same time, it is the hour 0 as the next day begins. Maria suddenly called out happily and ran towards the darkness. Almost as though Beatrice was somewhere in that darkness and Maria was running up to her. I looked down the barrel of the rifle as Jessica hugged her mother's corpse. George Anarchy stood there shocked. We gazed into the darkness. Her eyes fixed just in front of Beatrice's portrait. There, Maria leapt into a hug with the portrait's subject. Gotta be kidding me. This is ridiculous, impossible. This madness can't possibly be. Witches don't exist. I won't accept it. Things like you must not exist, because this is a human world. Think I could accept something that's not human? Never will I never. Never I will never. I pulled hard on the rifle's lever. The cartridge was ejected, fell on the floor, and a new cartridge was loaded. Then I sighted the witch down the barrel. Maria turned around. Still clinging to the golden witch, she turned around.
だから意味なんてないってば。ベアトリーチェに鉛玉なんて意味ないってば。バカだね、人間は。
俺は魔女なんて認めねえぞ。貴様は誰だ。一歩でも動いてみろ。指一本でも動かしてみろ。こいつをぶち込んでやる。
The laughter of the witch, no, the witches, was joined by the laughter of even the large clock in the hall. It was probably telling us that the time was midnight. It was both a tone telling us we'd reached the culmination of this day, and a tone informing us that we had all returned to nothing. The rules had specified the witch would win when time ran out.
ジョージお兄ちゃんにジェシカお姉ちゃん、旅は終わって、魔女は
And none shall be left alive. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all of the golden land's gold. One resurrects all of the dead people's souls. One even revives all the love they possessed. And one for the witch to eternally rest. Rest in peace, my beloved witch Beatrice. We have midnight. It is also longer than I expected. But I think we are basically near the end. I hope we're just like epilogue now. The storm passed, and the leaden clouds that had enshrouded the island for so long began to clear away. Sunbeams shone from the rifts between the clouds. Yesterday's storm seemed like a lie. Just as someone had wished, the seagulls returned to the harbor once again and let their lively cries be heard. Afterwards, the police arrived and conducted an investigation of the scene. The corpses of the children, who are believed to have survived until the very end, were never found. However, from the body parts that were discovered and the unimaginably gruesome nature of the scene, the police reports conclude that the chances of survival for any of the 18 bleeding children were hopelessly dim. Jeez, it's going fast. Just how gruesome was the banquet of the witch? Just how beautiful was the Golden Land? Those tales are for them alone to tell amongst themselves. They have no tale for those who arrived at the banquet after the banquet had ended. One can only but imagine what transpired during the course of those 2 days. However, the witch was fickle. She made a point of leaving behind this tale, which had no need to be told, and permitted it to spread. A few years later, a strange wine bottle drifted on the waves of the quayside of a neighboring island was recovered by a fisherman. Some tightly rolled notebook pages crammed full to the edges with minuscule writing. Written there was this tale. It would be through these pages that people come to know the mystery of those 2 days. The incident would be later referred to as the Rokujima mass murders, the 18 killings, which dictated with the witch. Lovers of the occult claim the story resolved the immortal ritual of the island, embellished in the 2-day span and spread far and wide. However, one of these was in fact the truth. While the notebook pages tell of this mysterious incident, they do not tell the truth. Perhaps not even the writer of the notebook knew the truth. Perhaps they had no desire to know. According to the writer's signature, her name was Ushiro Maria. Furthermore, as a result of the all-out police search, part of Maria's body had been discovered. A piece of her jaw. It was one of the rare instances where the owner of the body was able to be identified through dental records. Though many parts cannot be linked to a specific person, the jaw could be a formidable find. Police consider chances of survival to be dim, as nothing else was found. Let us conclude this tale with the final paragraph of the notebook. By the time you read this, I will probably be dead. Although there may or may not be a corpse, if you have read this, please uncover the truth. That is my only wish. Ushiro Maria. To this very day, the truth of the witch legend serial murder case has not been brought to light. First game, Legend of the Witch result. Kraus dies first Twilight, Rudolph dies first Twilight, Rosa dies first Twilight, Kyrie first Twilight, Shannon first Twilight, Goda first Twilight. Even Hideyoshi second Twilight. Kinzo is 4th, Kanon is 5th, Genji is 6th, Nanjo is 7th, Kumasawa is 8th. Beatrice is revived. Natsuhi dies on the 9th. George, Jessica, and Maria and Battler all go missing on the 10th Twilight. Battler denies the existence of the witch. The other 3 accept and are invited to the Golden Land. The witch shall praise the wise and grant 4 treasures. Because of what they desired, could not be granted from the mountain of high gold, no matter how high. George lost his fiancée, Jessica her lover, Maria her mother. Rest in peace, Beatrice. May your slumber never again be disturbed. The winner is Beatrice. Of the 18, none solved the riddle in time. All 18 died. When the seagulls cried, none were left alive. Yes, you're gone in 5 minutes, and then I had to speed read, because this is auto-scrolling, and I have no control over it. So to catch you up on what happened once you... because I can't remember exactly once you left. So they find Natsuhi dead. She committed suicide by shooting herself in the forehead. The kids go, but it chimes midnight. Maria congratulates the witch on winning. The witch then appears, and then it fades to this. And we got a bunch of trophies. There's the gold. What is the T part? Do I want to know? Okay, this is the post. This is like the post the game conversation. Higurashi did a very similar one. Oh, we're in purgatory. Great.
Oh, みんな、海猫の鳴く頃にお疲れさん。やれやれ、わけがわかんないうちに物語が終わっちまったな。
つまりなんだ？あれは結局犯人は暴けず時間切れのバッドエンドでした。
おお、きっとバッドエンド。おお。
そうだね。1日目の夜にマリアちゃんが読んだベアトリーチェの手紙に、僕たちは自衛や犯人を探るのに忙しくて全然その謎に挑まなかったし。
そうですね。ちゃんと碑文の謎に挑んでいたら違う結末もあったのでしょうか。
それはどうかな。シャノンちゃんもお疲れ。お茶の窮地なんてしなくていいぜ。何しろここはお疲れ様会なんだからよ。ひでえ目にあった者同士仲良く傷の舐め合いをしようぜ。ベロベロベロ。
I'm so glad I don't have to voice act
ひ
this.
でえ目って言ったらシャノンがぶっちぎりだったぜ。 綺麗どころのキャラだからてっきり最後まで生き残るかと思ったら一番最初に殺されるし、しかもなんだ顔面を半分砕かれてた。最悪だよな。
そういうお役目でしたら仕方ありませんし。
姉さんが気にすることはないよ。お嬢様方もラストのエピローグを見る限
りどうもそうみたいだ。なんだか全身を食いちぎられてバラバラにされたみたいな恐ろしい描写があったような気がするよ。
それを言ったらカノン君の最後が一番かっこよかったと思うぜ。返り討ちとはいえ犯人と一騎打ちだろ。俺らのよくわからん最後よりは数段マシ。
結局何も歯が立ちませんでしたが。
でもカノン君の死は大きなヒントになったと思うな。だってあのせいで19人目の存在が明らかになったんだから。
そうだね。あの時点では全員の所在が明らかだった。だからカノン君を殺せるのは未知の19人目しかありえない。
マリアは最初からベアトリーチェだってずっと言ってる。
信じたくはねえけどベアトリーチェを名乗る魔女が犯人ってことになるんだろうぜ。
そうですよね。人にはできない不思議なことがいっぱいありましたし。
Yes, we did just finish episode 1. Welcome in. Unfortunately, we won't be here too much longer.
密室殺人とか魔女にしかできない。人間にはできない。
19人目が存在することが明らかで、
となればその人物をベアトリーチェと呼んでも差し支えはねえだろうぜ。
多分僕たちはラストで出会っているよ。黄金の魔女にね。
だからマリアはベアトリーチェがいるってずっと言ってる。
Maria, the one who believed from the start, didn't do anything about trying to solve the riddle, though. She didn't
みんな
care.
ずっと信じなかったからダメだった。信じないと奇跡は起きないって友達の魔女も言ってる。そうですね。ベアトリーチェ様は敬う者に寛大だそうですし。
マリア様は恐ろしい事件が次々と起こっていっても、
マリアは一番の最初からベアトリーチェを信じてたもんな。
Everything I see on my side looks fine. I see no dropped frames or anything.
でもそれじゃあ同じように信じてたカノン君たちも殺されたのは納得がいかないぜ。
それは多分ベアトリーチェ様なりの
碑文の歌がベアトリーチェ様の復活の儀式を意味するものなら、その一人にご指名をいただけたということなのでしょう。
シャノンちゃんはひどい最後だったよ。せめてもう少し綺麗で安らかな方法もあったろうに。
まあ痛かったわけじゃないですし、それにほら今はこうして全然平気ですから。
And improved this by stroking her cheek, which had been crushed during the story, and everyone laughed out loud,
でも
smiling.
こう言っちゃなんだけど、僕はてっきり本格ミステリーだと思ってたからね。ファンタジーだと分かってちょっと驚いてるよ。遺産をめぐる外界から隔絶された孤島の洋館ものなんて推理物の王道だと思ってたからさ。
ファンタジーじゃない。ベアトリーチェはいるの。
ええ、分かっています。ベアトリーチェ様はいらっしゃいます。
そうですね。ベアトリーチェ様はいらっしゃいます。
悔しいが認めざるを得ねえよな。
I think when they're saying exists in quotes, it's literally like, is at home here.
19人目の魔女の関与は明らかだしな。
人間には不可能なことをいくつもやってのけてる。劇中の僕らはそれを否定したくてあれこれと考えたけれども、
Thank you for confirming.
今ならはっきり言えるよ。どれもいずれも全て人間には不可能な犯罪だった。魔法の力を使いこなす魔女のベアトリーチェにしか成し得ない犯行だよ。
犯人は魔女だった。 その一点において何のベアトリーチェ様万歳ってわけだ。
みんな信じた。マリアは嬉しい。
I don't know if Battler ever really believed.
神様も魔女も怖がる人には恐ろしい存在かもしれない。信じ敬う人にとってはきっと慈しみのある存在に違いないと思います。
姉さんの言う通りだと思います。
じゃあさ、せっかく殺人事件ごっこは終わったわけだし、ここで気を取り直してちゃんとベアトリーチェの言う通り碑文の謎に挑戦してみねえか。
賛成。きっとベアトリーチェも喜ぶ。
劇中ではみんな無視してたからね。
せっかく出題されたのにほ
So
とんど
in
無視
this
されて。
arc, we never physically see Beatrice. We hear her a few times near the
そう
end.
ですね。
We see the
ベアトリーチェ様
butterflies a handful of times.
碑文のメモがある。みんなで謎解き。
Yeah, I don't know if we've seen Battler yet in this after story, have we?
物語は多分この時点
Well,
か
it
ら
did
間違ってたん
say
だろう
in the
ね。
epilogue that he refused the existence of Beatrice. So if this is supposed to be the Golden Land where they're having this story, maybe he wasn't invited. Oh, right. Was he at the very start? I will take your word for it.
そうかもしれません。私たちはベアトリーチェ様のご指示通り碑文の謎に挑むべきだったのかもしれません。
まあすっかり遅くなっちまったけどな。
You were right, because I was like, I'm glad I don't have to read this out loud. Maybe he's off being beat up for trying to lick people.
今からでも再挑戦するってことで魔女様には許してもらおうぜ。ささ、碑文の謎に挑戦してみよう。何々、懐かしき故郷を貫く鮎の川。
As Marie put her notebook on the table and opened to the page where the epitaph was written, everyone peered closely at it and had fun and lively discussions. They started guessing this and that about the riddle. Surrounded by the smell of the black tea and freshly baked vanilla cookies, they spent the time comfortably and happily.
ちょいと待てよ、お前ら。
Butler said that in a tone that ruined the mood. His expression looked a little unhappy. What could he not like about all this
お前
fun?
ら、さっきから聞いてりゃ、何を思考停止してんだ？なんで魔女の仕業ってことで決まってんだよ。そんなのあるわけねえじゃねえかよ。
With just those words, the happy atmosphere of the tea party disappeared in no time at all. George and Jessica, and Shannon and Cannon, and Maria, all of them stared blankly, wondering why Battler was saying such weird things. Even the foolish and arrogant Battler noticed he had said the wrong thing.
だって明らかに人間には無理な事件だったじゃないか。
そうだぜ。どの事件も人間には無理なことばかり。
そうですよね。だって人間じゃ説明がつかないことばかりじゃないですか。
バトラ様が何を言い出すのか僕には分かりません。
お前たちこそ、何を口々に言い出すのかさっぱりだぜ。こんなの人間が起こした事件に決まってるじゃねえかよ。魔女なんているわけねえだろ。
じゃあ、私が倉庫の中で殺されてた時、顔の半分をひどいことにされていましたが、あれは人間が犯人なら、どう再現するというのですか？
そりゃ、まあ、どうやったらあんなひでえことができるのか。ちょっと、でも、あそこはバラ庭園の倉庫だぜ。きっと、中に妙な道具とかがいくらでもあっただろう。わかんねえけどよ。例えば、
Great, thanks, Battler, for that image.
そんな。
それは、
じゃあバトラー、じい様が密室の書斎から消え去っていたのはどう？扉は封印されていたのにじい様は忽然と消え去ってたぜ。
その話は劇中でも出ただろう。じい様が何らかの方法を使えばレシートをごまかすことは不可能じゃない。あるいは窓から出て、あるいは落ちて、夏日おばさんが窓を内側から施錠した可能性もある。別に魔法を使わなくたって 他にもいくつか手は思いつくだろうぜ。
それはそう。
ならバトラ君、僕の母さんたちが客室の中で殺されていたのはどう説明するんだい？扉には鍵もチェーンもかかってた。無論窓もね。どうやって人間に母さんたちを殺せたって言うんだい？
まあ確かにそのトリックは劇中でも保留になったままだったな。とにかく犯人は鍵だけは持ってる可能性が高い。チェーンに許される程度の扉の隙間は確保できたわけだ。非常に苦しい話だが、その隙間から何かの仕掛けを施した可能性はあるいはその隙間から何かを出したと。確かにチェーンってのはえらいシンプルだが、密室トリックなんておよそやり尽くされてるんだ。そこいらの書店で密室ミステリーを数冊買ってくりゃ、どうせビンゴなトリックが見つかるだろうぜ。とにかく俺には思いつかねえが、どうにかやりくりすりゃ人間にできないことはないだろうって断言できる。
それはひどい暴論じゃないかい？説明できないのに人間に可能だと断言できるなんてめちゃ
何がどうめちゃめちゃなんだよ。兄貴たちは何を思考停止しても一見できなさそうに見えてもどうせできるんだよ。これがお約束ってもんだろうが。
めちゃめちゃなのはバトラの方だぜ。人間にできるってんなら説明してみろよ。できねえだろ？
できなきゃすぐに犯人は魔女ってことで落ち着くのかよ。その論法で言っちまったら世界中の未解決事件は全部魔女が犯人ってことで決着しちまうぞ。
バトラは問題をすり替えてるし、マリアたちは人間にはできない。だから人間じゃない存在が犯人。それが魔女だとそう言っている。なのにバトラは説明できないけど魔女はありえないとか一方的な決めつけで言ってる。まるで無知な時代の人類のようだね。地球が回ってるはずがない。説明はできないけど宇宙が地球を中心に回ってるんだと言い張る愚か者のよ
う。なんだか気に入らねえ論法だが、つまりお前らはこう言いたいの。人間に可能だと説明できないならベアトリーチェであることを受け入れろってことかよ。
そこまで押し付けているは、ただバトラ様が何を根拠にそのような弱い事を言い出すのかと思いまして。
The game does not have a time here. And everyone's dead, by the way. Just missing. Oh, cool. He was chewed to the bone by demons and went to hell.
俺ってさっきからそんなに変なこと言ってるか？おかしいのは俺なのか？さっきからえれえ不愉快だぞ。
バトラ様、僕は自分が死んだ時ボイラー室で存在しないはずの19人目に殺されています。
So I'm currently streaming roughly Fridays. So this time starting around 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, roughly. We are going to be taking a break after this and playing a different game for probably about a month or so, and then we'll come back to the next the question arc after that.
説明できるのですか？あの時18人の所在は全員がはっきりしていました。にもかかわらず僕は
その件も劇中で言ってるぜ。例えば熊沢のばあちゃんだ。カノン君がボイラー室に降りてからすぐ後を追ったと言ってるが、実は嘘かもしれない。一緒にボイラー室に入って不意をついてぶっすり行っちまったのかもしれねえ。あるいはボイラー室に踏み込むと何かのトラップが発動して例のアイスピックが打ち込まれるように仕掛けられていたのかもしれない。 何しろ焼却炉からはじい様の遺体の悪臭だ。必ず誰かがやってくるわけだから、仕掛けだけ施せば犯人はその場を離れ、カノン君の死亡時刻にアリバイを作ることは十分できる。
ボイラー室のトラップってどんなのですか？
そうだよ。あの後すぐみんながボイラー室に駆けつけた。でもそんな変な仕掛けは見つけられなかったじゃないか。
さようです、バトラ様。どんな仕掛けで僕は殺されたというのですか？
いや、それはわからねえ。でもとにかく何かの仕掛けをうまくやってたな。こうも考えられるぜ。そもそもあれはカノン君の自作自演だったとかな。そうだ、自作自演だ。エヴァおばさんたちも自作自演なんだよ。自分で密室を作り死んだふりをした。
バトラ、お前さっきから頭大丈夫か？
冷たいお飲み物でもお持ちしましょうか？
そこまで荒れみの目で見られるほど妙なことは言ってねえ。俺はあくまでもトリックを考える上での可能性について言っただけだぜ。それにほら、死者が実は死んでないなんて推理物のお約束じゃねえかよ。
お約束？
つまりだ、カノン君が殺された時、確かに俺たち全員の所在ははっきりしていた。そして熊沢のばあちゃんも嘘はついてでもそれは生存者だけの話だ。もし死んだふりをして犠牲者に混じり姿をくらましていた犯人が別行動をしていたとしたら。
つまりエヴァおばさんたちが犯人だと言いたいわけか？でもおばさんたちの死亡については南條先生が医者として
そうです。南條先生は全ての犠牲者について、もしバトラ様の説を採用するなら
そうだな。南條先生が犯人の一味で嘘の死亡宣告をしていたかもしれないと考えりゃ、ほらこれも推理物のお約束じゃねえかよ。
でも南條先生も殺されたよ。
それはそうさ。南條先生は偽装師なんだ。何しろ南條先生以外に検視ができる奴はいねえし、あの時はもう混乱してる状況下だ。本当に脈が止まってるかなんてのんびり確かめてる暇もなかったぜ。この論法なら死者は誰だって歩き回れたことになる。
私たち最初の6人は難しかったんじゃないかと思います。だってシャッターを閉められた上に内側からは開けられない軟禁。
そうだぜ、その鍵は母さんが預かった。じゃあ母さんも犯人の一味だってのかよ。
いや最初の6人は無理そうだが、エヴァおばさんたちは外から鍵をかけただけだろ。なら内側から開けられるし。そうさ、俺たちが部屋を出た後窓から飛び出してボイラー室に先回りしたとか。苦しいか？あるいは南條先生も検視を誤ったとかな。ほら自分でも言ってたぜ、検視は誤審率が高いとかって。うまく偽装したとか身代わり死体を用意したとかで死をごまかしたんだ。方法やトリックはこれから考えるとして、とにかく19人目を否定することはそう難しいことじゃないんだ。ましてや魔女、それだけは断じてありえない。
バトラがさっきからなんで頑なにみんなの中に犯人がいるようにしたいのかわかんない。つまりバトラは親族の誰かを疑いたいんだよね。
そういうわけじゃねえ。ただ安易に19人目を肯定はできねえし、仮にいたとしてもそれは人間だって見地から話を構築すべきであって、それら全部を否定しきった最後の最後で苦し紛れに出てくるのが魔女だろって話をしたいんだ。魔女なんているわけないだろ。なんでさっきからみんなは魔女が犯人ってことでひょいひょい納得したがるんだ。そりゃ 身内に殺人犯がいると思いたくねえ家族愛は立派さ。でもそれでごまかしちまっていいのかよ。あれだけ大勢を殺した憎き犯人を見つけ出したいとは思わねえのかよ。兄貴だって両親の仇を見つけたいだろ。ジェシカだってカノン君の仇を、そしてカノン君だってシャノンちゃんの仇を見つけたい。シャノンちゃんだって自分を殺したのが誰なのか知りたいはずだ。なんでこうパーンと全面降伏して魔女が犯人ってことになっちまうんだよ。お前らさっきから何なんだ。
The foolish and short-tempered battler tried to force his ignorance on the others by yelling at them. However, everyone just looked at him pityingly, silently watching over him. Then the wise Maria laughed and pointed out Battler's mistake for him.
呆れてるんだよ。バトラはさっきから支離滅裂なことを繰り返しては何か。だからそれで人間にどうやって具体的には。そう聞くと決まってバトラは今は思いつかないけどとか何かの仕掛けでとか抽象的な言葉で逃げたりお茶を濁したり。むしろ知りたいよバトラ。どうしてベアトリーチェを信じないの？いるのにどうして？
いねえからだよ。魔女なんかいるわけがねえ。
He's almost like a stubborn child refusing for no reason. Pitying gazes quietly blanketed Butler, but they didn't reach his stubborn heart.
まるっきりだだっこのわがままだぜ。
バトラ様、お気持ちはわかりますが。
ベアトリーチェ様はいらっしゃるのです。
バトラ君、どうして信じないんだい？これほどまでに状況証拠は揃ってるのに。
説明できなきゃ全て魔女なんて俺はそんな論法は認めねえ。
Hello, how's it going? We're in the epilogue. We're all dead.
どうして電球が
And we're trying to figure out who
仕掛けを
killed
知らなきゃ
us.
全て魔法ってことになるのか？違うだろ。魔法じゃなきゃ説明がつかないことなど存在しない。魔女だの魔法だのってのは思考の放棄だ。兄貴たちはわからねえ事件に屈服して降参しただけなんだ。そうだろ。
Yeah, this has gone on way longer than I thought. I thought we would have ended about like half an hour ago, to be honest.
やっぱりバトラだけはどうしても信じないね。誰か一人でも信じなかったら奇跡は起きない。
You've arrived just in time for what is hopefully the last 5 minutes, because I think Battler's beaten his argument dead at this point.
思い込みを改めさせなきゃ奇跡が魔法が。
That was chess, by the way. Last I saw it, I think you were still 0-0 on the day, because that was a while ago.
なるほどな。ようやく一端が見えてきたぜ。つまりお前らは俺に魔女様は存在するって言わせたいんだろ。全員が認めた嘘は真実になる。そういうこったろ。あいにくだな。ここばかりはあいにくだがそいつは全然ダメだぜ。お前らが俺にそう詰め寄るからこそ、だからこそ全然ダメなんだ。悪いが最後の最後でもう一回チェス盤をひっくり返させてもらうぜ。魔女の存在を俺に認めさせたいなら、それは人間にはできないから魔女なんていう遠回し魔女が魔法でやってみせた。それを俺に見せるだけの話なんだ。さらにだ、さっきマリアが言ったことが一番墓穴を掘ってる。誰か一人でも信じなかったら奇跡は起きないってな。真の奇跡は誰が信じようと信じまいと勝手に起こる。たとえ俺一人が信じなかったとしてもだ。だからこそ俺が信じれば成立する奇跡も魔法も、そして魔女も嘘っぱちだってわけさ。
The uneasy mood following Battler's ignorant rant was thoughtfully blown away by a very refreshing and light laugh. Whose laugh? Battler was surprised by the voice, which he had never heard before. He looked at George and Jessica, at Shannon and Cannon, at Maria, noticed that they had suddenly gone respectfully silent.
Yoi. 久しぶりに愉快な人間に出会えたものよ。
She's finally here.
誰だ？
招かれた茶会のホストも知らぬか。よいよい。
こちらのお方は1000年を生きる黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェ様にあらせられます。
ご機嫌麗しゅう、ベアトリーチェ様。
バトラ君の暴言を。
こいつは頑固です。まだ自分の置かれた状況が分かってなくて。
よいよい、1000年も生きると大抵の魔女は生き飽き、そなたのような気骨ある男は時にはよい。
ベアトリーチェがお姿を現してくれるのはとても光栄なことだよ、バトル。
こりゃたまげたぜ。そこまでして俺に魔女が19人目が犯人だと思い込ませてえのかよ。ますますに気に入った。だから全然ダメだぜ。お前はマリアたちが主張する魔女ベアトリーチェの幻影というわけだ。そして全員がその存在を信じることでようやく存在を許される。そういう虚構の存在なんだろう。だから俺にも信じさせたい。俺だけが信じないから存在できない。そうなんだろう。
魔に通じぬ凡夫の分際にしては理解力は悪くない。なるほど。どうやらそなたは生まれながらにして魔力に強い抵抗力を持つらしく、我ら魔女の天敵をどう逆さに振るってみせようと決して我らを信じ、だから魔法が及ばない。お前のその態度には納得がいこうというものよ。
何を言ってやがるかさっぱりだぜ。わざわざお姿まで表してもらって恐縮だが、俺はお前さんの存在なんてこれ。確かにこの2日間妙なことは何度か起こった。さっきマリアに言われた通り、俺はそれら全てにトリックの説明がつけられると思っているが、だからといって屈するわけじゃない。俺は兄貴たちとは違うぜ。説明できないから魔女の仕業だなんて論法には絶対ならねえぜ。
ますますに気に入ったぞ。お前は屈服させがいがある。お前のような男にこそ我が名をたたえさせてみせたいぞ。お前のような男にこそつま先にキスをさせてみたいものよ。
寝言言いたきゃ好きなだけ言ってる。俺はお前なんか否定してやるぜ。全ての出来事人間とトリックで説明してやる。そこには一遍たりとも魔女も魔法も入り込む余地はね
え。よい、それでこそ1000年の退屈も紛れるというものよ。ならば聞こう。お前は先ほどエヴァたちを殺すのに扉の隙間を利用すればよいと言った。人間とトリックでどう殺してみせるのか。
いきなり一番辛いところから切り込んでってことは、このトリックが一番の自信作ってこと。真犯人さん。
Reacher shook her golden pipe, and 7 colors of gentle smoke trailed out of the end. Smoke quickly obscured the surroundings, and they were suddenly in the hallway of the mansion. Wow, this does drag on. In front of their eyes, a slightly open door secured by a chain. Yes, it was the entrance to the room where Eva and Hideyoshi had been killed.
便利じゃねえかよ。
さて、このわずかな隙間からどうしてみせるのか、バトラー。
多分そいつを使って。
その隙間からは見えぬベッドの上のエヴァをどう狙うのか。そしてバスルームにこもり 扉を閉めた秀吉をどう狙うの？
No, they do not.
隙間はある。何か方法があるはずなんだ。
お前に思いつかぬなら。
ほう、魔女様ならどうやって見せるったんだよ。お手並みを拝見してやろうじゃねえか。
バトラー、ベアトリーチに口の利き方が。
よいよ、愉快な男。それでこそ屈服させる可能。
そんなに俺につま先にキスをさせてえかよ。俺が降参したらな。だが見てろ、きっと俺がこのトリックを暴いて逆にてめえを俺のケツにキスさせてやるぜ。
愉快な男、覚えておこうぜ。
Charming is not what I would use to describe that.
力を得るために悪魔の尻にキスを。それを超える屈服の誓いはないから。そこまで言わせたからこそ。
Paying no mind to Battler's crude ranting, Beatrice once again waved her golden pipe. Yes, for that golden pipe was her precious magic wand.
さあさあおいでなさいな子供たち。我こそ煉獄の案内人、滞在を許せし7つの悔いを持て。
Guided by those magic words, each sounded like a psalm. 7 stakes gathered. They were the stakes of the 7 demons, symbolizing the deadly sins of sinful
ベ
people.
ルゼブブにアスモデウス。さあさあ罪を許しなさい。罪人の魂を解放なさい。
うわっ。
The stakes of Beelzebub and Asmodeus responded to Beatrice's call. The 2 demonic stakes burst into motion like billiard balls struck by a cue and were sucked into the crack of the door. Then came the sound of them deflecting repeatedly off the walls of the room, making a sound like a woodpecker. Finally, a pleasant sound could be heard. It was a small, satisfying sound, like the one heard when someone is chopping firewood and the falling axe neatly and easily slices through the wood. It was the sound of the 2 stakes burying themselves deep into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads. These poor people, even in the epilogue, are like, let's wind back the tape and just kill them a few more times. They definitely heard 2 sounds like someone's forehead being split open. Battler wasn't permitted to see it since he was on the other side of the door. But those 2 had died again, and the second time, they lay not an inch apart from where they had lain last time, with the exact same blood spray as before.
バカ野郎。そんなめちゃくちゃで殺せてたまるかよ。
殺せるとこのように殺。
That's a cool bubble effect. Suddenly, they were no longer in the hall, but seated at the tea party they had started from. Everyone but Battler was sitting meekly, but Cannon was moaning, fresh blood dangling from his mouth. Such bad manners for a tea party. Satan's stake was buried deep into Cannon's chest. Battler was the only one getting agitated. George, Jessica, Shannon, everyone else was meekly hanging their heads like students being told off by their teacher.
カノンはさまつな怒りにとらわれ、わらわの宴を乱す怒りにとらわれやすいのはお前の滞在を清め悔いてやり直すがいい。
At Rice.
ベアトリーチ様、どうかお許し。カノ君は十分に反省。
よい、わらわは敬う者に寛大で。
ふざけるな。こんな3本芝居で俺がお前の存在を認めると思うなよ。何が1000年を生きたてめえのトリックなんざ。1000年じゃねえ、せいぜい100年程度のミステリー界が作ったお約束の魔法なんかじゃねえ。断じてねえ。事件の全ては人間とトリックで説明がつく。
我が1000年を人間どもの100年で語るか。よいよい、 だから
愚かなバトラ
よすんだ。バトラ君、ベアトリーチェ様に逆らっちゃいけない。
Shannon started moaning, holding her cheek. Maybe she had a toothache. Didn't look anything like a toothache. Slight redness spread across the cheek Shannon was holding. Looked like that redness was causing Shannon unbearable pain. She started to press her nails into her cheek, and drops of sweat appeared all over her body.
Shadow! Shadow! しっかりしっかりどうしたってんだクソなんなんだこりゃ
Expanded rapidly, covering half of Shannon's face. And the stupid dunce battler finally realized.
頼むバトラベアトリーチェ様を信じてくれ故障だから君が信じないから魔法が溶けてしまう
For the first time in his life, Battler heard the sound like a pomegranate splitting. The red spray even landed on Battler's face. How sad. Shannon's face had been split in half, and her last horrible moments in that storehouse had been repeated once again.
Shadow! Shadow! やめろシャを恥ずかしめるなシャを恥ずかしめる
Oh, I think we're coming to an end, so we're all dying again. This time, red patterns begin to spread across George's entire body. Like it was the beautiful cloud drawn by milk when it's poured into black tea. They slowly spread out extended across his entire body. They grew more saturated in color, they seemed to give George increasingly greater pain. Looking at those bizarre patterns, Battler's petrified as he frantically thought, with his pitifully clumsy imagination, about the nature of the strange deaths that George and the others had experienced. Before long, that redness reached the nearby Jessica as well.
Yamero! 兄貴が何をしたジェシカが何をしたもうやめろ
パトラ魔女なんかにくじけるんじゃ否定しろこいつは誰か一人でも否定する限り存在できない
大丈夫かジェシカ
Jessica affirms what Battler had said before. George was no longer shaped like a person. He looked like a pile of leftover meat after the good, delicious meat had been scraped off to be cooked. The only traces left of his time as a human were the shape of his lower jaw and rib cage. It was clear that Jessica, who was covered with a steadily strengthening redness, was approaching the same fate.
バトラ早くベアトリーチェをじゃないとみんなの魔法が解けて
マリアお前もジェシーに
わらわは魔法でもお前が信じない限りもっともお前ほどの男が
バトラ私たちは身内を現実から目をそらしたから愛情にでもバトラが魔女に
How sad. Jessica met the same end. Just like George, she ended up like a butcher's leftovers. Broken apart, melted, and all mixed up, so you couldn't tell which was George and which was Jessica anymore.
バトラ泣かないでベアトリーチェはだから悲しくないよだから死んでも
The redness began eating into the whole of Maria's body. He saw this. The foolish battler screamed out loud.
てめえは許さねえ絶対に許さねえ何が魔女だ何が魔法だ俺は全身全霊をかけてお前を否定してやるぞ何が何でもてめえを認めるわけにはいかねえ俺をここまで敵に回しやがった以上絶対にてめえだけは許さねえ許さねえ絶対許さねえ
It'll take him, what, 7 more chapters of trying to figure it out? Or give in? Alright, and with that, we're finally at the credits. Thanks to everyone who tuned in to this for this very long outro. Yes, you can sleep, Samuses. So I'm pretty sure I'll be available again next Friday. We'll be playing a new different game that I believe also has some mystery to it, but is not a visual novel. It's more in the RPG genre. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned for next week. But that's where we're gonna call it. And hopefully Battler has a good evening watching all of his friends be meat puddles. But yeah, thanks again, everyone. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and I will see you all again next time. Bye for now.